this set of pens for the longest time, and I kept meaning to swatch them to the extent where I was supposed to swatch them when I still had my old swatch book, and now I have a new swatch book, so now is the time. Claiming my moment, we're gonna swatch these pens. I've already gone in and put them in rainbow order. I mean, it doesn't look like it. I mean, I've written them out in rainbow order in here, so I know what order I want to put them in, because I'm just like a little bit particular when it comes to putting my pens into my swatch book, to the extent where I actually remade the first page that I put in here. So we start off, we've got all of these swatches by color, which are so dang helpful. This is one of the best decisions I've made in my journal. It's like if I'm looking for a green pen, I just come to the green section. I don't have to flip through all of the individual ones that I've got in this kind of, I don't know, second section of the notebook to try and find the exact green pen match that I want. I can just come here, scan my eyes across a whole list. Very helpful. The only issue I find with this is those in-between colors, the ones that don't really perfectly lean in one direction or the other. In the last iteration of this, I didn't actually set up a space for teal. I made that mistake, and I'm like, no, we will fix that. So I do now have a teal space for any of the greens and kind of green blues that are kind of quite in the middle. Some of these you probably would say lean a little bit more blue or lean a little bit more green, but it's nice to have them all together. Got blues and purples and pinks and browns, and then the grayscale pens. So those are all in here. This is one that I was like, oh no, devastated. I don't know how well it shows up, but it is technically purple. Like even with the blur, you can see that that's not brown. But by itself, it looked brown, and next to its purple counterparts, it looked brown. So it ended up in here. I might fix it. I might not. But after that, then we get into the pens by like set or type, I suppose. So we've got the Tombow Dual Brush markers, we've got the Crayola Super Tips, the Staedtler Tri Plus Fine Liners, we have the Zebra Mild Liners, a page that I need like a smaller set of pens to put on, but I haven't found one that works yet. Like they're in my collection, they're in my stash. I know they're there, I just need to actually get them out. After this, we have the Ohuhus, which wouldn't fit on just one spread, so I had to put in a Dutch door. And putting these in an order that I was like okay with. Is this the perfect order? No, but an order that I was okay with took such a long time, like many evenings, but that's okay. They're in there now. We then have where I'm going to be putting the Artronol of calligraphs, which are also going to go across two spreads. I haven't put in the second set here, but the ones we're doing today are the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pens. And I think part of the reason why I held off so long is, one, knowing I didn't have the full set. So it's like, well, how are you going to put them all in order if you don't have the full set? And two, they have numbers, but they also have names, and I wanted to write the names down, which is an odd choice considering I'm pretty sure the Tombow Dual Brush markers have names as well, but I didn't put those in. It's fine. It's all good. Let me know what it is you're going to be getting up to. Are you swatching with me? Are you doing your laundry? Are you just pottering in your journal? All goes here. I also thought that today, to go along with our swatching, we do like a little bit of a Q&A type thing. So I asked over on Instagram for some questions that people wanted answered live on the stream. So we've got a couple questions here to go through. But if as we go through you have a question that you want answered, make sure to chuck it down in the chat. I will endeavor to keep my eyes peeled to the extent where I'm actually going to move my mouse so it's a lot easier to grab your questions as we go through. I didn't realize it when I purchased it because my mouse broke. I needed a new one. I'm like, okay, well, we'll get this one. But it's actually like wireless and wired. It's got a USB-C port here, so you can have it either way. It's very convenient. But in terms of that, also funny you mentioned laundry. That's what you're doing now. Nice. Yeah. I think that live streams are great for doing chores around the house because it's like you're kind of just hanging out and chatting with somebody else, but you don't necessarily need to be super, super focused on the screen, which is kind of nice. Look, you're going to swatch and set up your weekly spread. Excellent idea. My weekly spread is looking a little neglected. I know I'm going to have to do like a big kind of journal check-in today, which I'll probably make as a video for the team with a capital T. And I noticed that there was somebody who joined as a member up there, and I missed the message, but yay, such a great time having you here with us. Oh my gosh, everybody's doing laundry. Yeah, I find that Monday, which is when I'm filming, is also my laundry day, mainly because it's the day that the cleaners come every second week, and it's like, well, if the towels are out of the way, then they can do a better job type of a thing. So it's like, I'll do the laundry on the Monday. They're not coming this week, which means that I can be a little bit more relaxed about when specifically it happens, but it does need to happen today because it's my ritual. It's part of my process. So as said, I did go through and put these in color order and then chuck them all back into my pencil case. So it's like, ugh. What a mess. But at least I've got the numbers and the names written down so I can just go and like check in with each of them nice and easy. Yeah. Taking a break from your reading journal to order groceries, nice. I do love that we can do that online now. You know, order groceries, have somebody run around the store and grab them for you, so you can just go in and grab your bag. It's really convenient. There are some things that I do not trust them to pick up, but I trust them to pick up anything that comes in a packet, kind of a thing. Mainly because if I'm getting fresh fruit and veg, I get a little bit picky about which ones I want. Like, no, as much as the weird carrot probably tastes fine, I don't want the weird carrot. But in terms of our first question, which I'm going to steal from our Instagram list of questions, the first one was, what do you think are the best coloring pens? Now, I don't necessarily know if they're the best, but I'm probably a little biased because they're the ones I use the most, and that would be the Tombow dual brush markers. I think that the range of colors is pretty good for them. Like, there are some that are probably like a little bit lacking, but it's nothing so bad that it's like, oh gosh, I feel like deprived or anything. And I like that they have a carry case, so I can take it to and from my friends' houses. It's very, very convenient. In terms of, you know, a more cost-effective option though, the Ohuhus are pretty dang decent. Like, if we think about the color range that you've got with this is a 160 set. I don't know what the retail price of the 160 set is, but you do have a decent range. I think it's nice that they have a decent range of reds as well, because I feel like red is often a space that gets left out. We've got a decent chunk of purples, which is also one that gets left out. A lot of these pinks do look quite similar, so it's like, but I think all in all, for a, you know, more cost-effective set of pens, they're really not so bad. I also like the fact that those ones have a fine point on the other end, because they're dual brush. You've got a brush on one and you've got a fine point on the other, like a fine liner, which can be very convenient for writing headers and such in a way that matches any kind of coloring you're doing on the page. I mean, you can also color with those if you're doing like a coloring in book or whatnot, so that can be quite good. So this one here is lilac, which I now need to find because they're not in number order, so it's like, okay, there we go. There is lilac. I do appreciate having gone in and drawn out these boxes ahead of time and written all the names in, because otherwise I would not be able to do a lot of talking because I would be writing, and I find that writing and talking at the same time is a difficulty point for me. Let's see, yeah, the Ohuhu markers, yeah, I'm glad that you like them too. I think that they are fairly decent. Like I said, like, you know, a cost-effective option that is giving you like a really large range of colors. And I've also heard people say good things about the Ohuhu alcohol markers. Now, notably not using those in my journal, but at least that is also an option for people. Now, as we go through, I do not have all of the colors, so there are going to be some gaps in this. I tried to put them in rainbow order as best as I can based on the online swatches that I saw, but it might be the case that when I end up getting those, I'm just like, oh no, you're completely the wrong spot, but that's okay. So this one here is called Purple Violet. Excellent. Which in my mind, violet also means purple, so this color is called Purple Purple, but that's fine. I do find it interesting, some of the color names that people come up with for pens. I'm just like, okay, yeah, that was a choice. It was interesting. Let's see. Will you please tell us the numbers of the pens too? Yes, I can do that. I can also zoom you in a little bit if you prefer. I don't know how visible it makes it, but we can try and make it so that you guys can actually see what we're doing here. But this one is white, which is nice. I think that in terms of the white one, it is actually a little bit opaque, so I will actually color it in. Yeah, I can kind of see that going down on the page. It's not very punchy. I think it works better over colored paper, but I have colored in the white box. So it officially counts. It officially counts. The Ohuhu dual tip dot markers. The dual tip dot markers are brilliant too. Oh, nice. I do think that that would be something I would like to investigate, because, you know, the what I'm going to call the regular dot markers, quote quote, the ones that I have, they are not cheap. Okay. Cheap is a word that I don't have any negative connotations with. I find cheap to just mean cost effective. So if I say cheap, I'm not trying to be rude. But yeah, they are not cost effective to a lot of people. So it would be nice to try out the ones that are a little bit more budget friendly. This one is 154 light cobalt turquoise. Light cobalt turquoise. Some of these I'm like, you've used white text on here and it's really hard to like use or read it, but 154 turquoise, that's green, cobalt turquoise, light cobalt turquoise. Make sure I put it in the right spot. Otherwise, I will be very miffed and we will have to go and make some mistake fixes, which is probably going to happen anyways, but I'd prefer to hold off as long as possible. It'd be nice to not have to fix the mistakes in here. There we go. So, next question we have, what do you recommend for lighter pastels to do the second line highlights? I ordered a mix of 120 and only had one pen light enough for second line highlights. Damn. So I typically do mine with Tombos because they are my preferred pen of choice. And I do have set ones that I kind of go to time and time again to be able to do that. So if we flip back to our swatches, I also find that doing it with brush markers in general is just a little bit easier. Like, I personally find it easier. So we'll just zoom out a little bit so we can have a look at the full range. So anything that is in the kind of this kind of color, like 990 is one that I use a lot. 020 is a pretty good one if you want something that's a little bit more yellow leaning. If you want something that's a bit of a brighter yellow, then 090, that's also a decent one. So it's a little bit more kind of like cheery in terms of a yellow. Like if you compare the pair, that one's more cheery. 491 is a pretty good one if you want something blue. I find that in terms of the green, I still find these two greens a little bit too saturated for me personally. So if I had to pick, it would be one of the two, probably 291, depending on if I want something a little cool leaning like this. But I do still find them to be a little bit too saturated for my personal preference, at least. In terms of purple, I usually lean towards 620 because that is the palest purple that we have here. And in terms of pink, you could use 800, but honestly, I find 800 like too pale. I would have to do a double pass over to get 800 to actually show up. So I usually lean more towards either 761 and just try and go as straight as possible with it because it is still a little bit more saturated, or 850, just depending on which one kind of suits the theme a little better. And then for orange, we have 910. Those would be my personal preferences. When it comes to gray, I usually lean towards N89. It's a really nice warm gray. That one is definitely one of my favorites and why I have a lot of it in stock. And then N95 if you want something a little bit more cool tone but still pale. If your N95 is run out, you can probably get away with N75. I have done that a couple of times. They're not too terrible, but they are it's not quite as pale as I would personally prefer. You can use other markers for them. I just prefer ones with brush tips. So like the Crayola Super Tips, we do have a decently pale green in here, but because of the nib of the pen, I don't like to use it as much. Let's see, Staedtler Tri Plus fine liners we're definitely not using because they're fine liners. Zebra mild liners, some people like to use a mild liner because of the chisel tip and they find that they can get a fairly straight line, maybe use a ruler with it or something. I have never found it to be particularly easy, but that's also because the chisel nib is not the full width of 5mm. So it means that you have to kind of position it in amongst the lines more accurately. Otherwise, it ends up kind of leaning to one side or the other and it doesn't sit as well with me or on the page in general, but that is still sometimes where people tend towards. Ohuhu markers are really great because a lot of them aren't very saturated. That sounds like a shady thing to say, but 103 from my Ohuhu set. Now, I will say that when I get Tombos, oftentimes, regardless of which time I've gone in to purchase the Tombow, the color is like a pretty damn decent match. I think I've had it once where the color didn't match what I'd had previously, which was a little bit weird. It was very much an outlier. I've never gotten another set of Ohuhus, so I do not know how well color matches work between sets. So take this with a bit of a grain of salt. You'd be better to kind of, go through and swatch all of your own pens if you have this set and find the ones that work best for you. But I think that in terms of an orange, maybe 112 looks pretty good. Pale yellows, we've got a decent chunk of pale yellow options here. So 102, 103, 101, 113, they're all pretty good. For greens, depending on what kind of shade of green you want, you've got kind of like a minty color here for 114. That's not bad. And then these two are still a little bit too saturated for my personal preference. So flipping over. For blues, you've got a nice icy blue here with 119, but it is still a little bit saturated. Okay. The reason that I don't tend towards super saturated pens when I do this is because I am not very good at doing straight lines. But if you pick a pale color, if you pick a color that's pale enough, it's not too bad because you can't really see it. It doesn't really stand out, especially when you go and add text over the top. If you start to pick something that's more saturated, then any wobbliness does show up, and I don't really enjoy that. So 104, that's great in terms of a nice pale color. I would say 137 is still too saturated for me, and then maybe 107. So there are some good options with the Ohuhus. Artronol of Calligraphs, they do have pale colors, but I haven't swatched them, so I can't really show you. I don't even have my old swatch book on hand, so I can't show you there either. But personal preference is for something with brush tip. In terms of the types of brush tip, though, yeah, would you struggle to get a Faber-Castell brush tip to cover the full 5mm? Probably, because the brush tip on this guy is distinctly different from the brush tip on a Tombow. I'll go grab a Tombow so I can show you. So we have a look at the difference in size. Did the whole beauty vlogger thing, so hopefully you can see the difference in size here. I find that the Tombow one, which is the one on top, that one I can get a really decent 5mm coverage, and even a little more if you provide a lot of pressure to it. But the Faber-Castell, the brush tip is a lot smaller, which is a bit nicer for, smaller headers and such in your journal and such, like coloring things in maybe a little bit. But in terms of doing a second line highlight, I probably wouldn't tend towards using these pens because I don't think I'd be able to get the coverage that I so desire. But we'll put that one back on lock so that then it doesn't go weird, going in and out of focus. But let's see. Next question we had was, I love this. Is it just me, or has Artronol changed and not in a good way? I think that's a great question. Well, I think that, yeah, changes have probably happened. Whether it's for good or for bad, I guess, is really up to a personal opinion, I suppose. One thing that has gotten me is that I feel like their paper has changed. I know that they haven't. They say that they haven't changed their paper. At least they haven't ordered any kind of differences in paper, but maybe the manufacturing has changed a little bit. This one is 148 ice blue. Because I find that with the older paper, before they changed the spine and all of that kind of a thing, the pens that I would use wouldn't smudge as much. So to the extent where you would say, like, yes, this paper is uncoated, I feel good about this. I can have it so that I put pen down on the paper and it sinks into the page and it doesn't leave a smeary mess, which I appreciate. With their more recent journals, though, I don't know if it's just maybe like the materials they're using, or if it's something like maybe the process of like compacting the fibers together is a little different when it comes to making the paper. I don't really know all that much about making paper in general, but I have found that in their more recent journals, my pens smudge and smear way more. They take a lot longer to dry. This one is 146 sky blue. So I've been a little bit annoyed by that to the extent where I've had to change my favorite pen now. So my favorite pen used to be the Papermate Inkjoy. This was also a question we had, like, what's your favorite black pen? The Papermate Inkjoy gel pen was my favorite black pen. I appreciated the darkness of the black. I thought it was great. I also appreciated the thickness of the line work that comes out of it. It's a 0.7mm. I never found it to be like all of that thick when I wrote with it, but I like my handwriting to look a little bit chonky. Nowadays, I'm using the Sarasa Mark-On, which is a 0.5mm nib, mainly because it's one of its big marketable features is that it dries fast and it doesn't smudge if you put like a a mild liner over the top of it. Like, that's its selling point. I still don't often tend to put mild liners over the top of it, mainly because I don't use mild liners. But I also still find that on the new Artronol paper, even if I give it time to dry, if I go over the top with another pen, it still has a tendency to smudge. And I don't think that's the fault of the pen. I do think that is a issue, quote, quote, an issue with the paper. So that's been a little bit disappointing. I don't know if I think it's probably that thing that's like, it's not going to go back. Like, I assume that is just going to be the way that it is now. But I do feel a little bit gaslit because I've asked them a couple times, like, "Are you sure there's nothing different about your paper because it behaves differently?" They're like, "No, nothing's different." And I'm like, maybe it's just that there's nothing different on their end, and the manufacturers have kind of done something a little bit different, but not. It's not different to the point where they're like, "Oh, we actually have to like disclose this." It's just different to the point of my pen takes a little longer to dry, but you know, um, yeah. When would you say? Oh, wait, okay. When you say new A&O, how new? Okay, good question. I have found that since this journal here, which was part of the June, July, I can't remember which one it is, subscription box, whichever subscription box starts in a J month, not last year, but the year before. That is when they started. So any of their newer designs, I have found the paper has been a little bit more smudgy. Whereas the old ones, like this guy, who's one of the OG kind of designs, that one is not a problem, and that's why I turned it into my swatch book. Because if I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of pen stuff, then it's like, yeah, I don't really want to have a whole bunch of smudging and having to wait excessive amounts of time for things to dry. It doesn't sound like my kind of party. But coloring this one in, which is a kind of medium blue. This one's called Cobalt Blue, though. It's 143. So I'll put that one out. What, in terms of rainbow ordering these pens, I went and found the official kind of like number guide on the Faber-Castell website. They have them done in number order, and I was like, okay, for a good chunk of this, the color's looking good, and then at the end, it's just like a bit like a hodgepodge mess. I'm like, no, let's not. Let's not put that in that order. I was like, took it into Photoshop and like cutting the boxes out and putting them in the order that I wanted to get the perfect rainbow. But this is looking good so far. I'm enjoying it. Alrighty. Do you have more affordable pen recommendations for those of us who like to write with super fine pens like the 005 microns? I have a friend. Her name is Monica. She's a gem. She uses a super fine pen. She doesn't often buy the microns because, like you say, they're a little bit pricier. She uses the Statler. I guess they're a Statler fine liner. I know that they have a special name, but they're the ones that have kind of like a gray body to them. Those ones are typically a lot more cost effective, especially if you like writing with the fine pen but are also heavy handed, and thus the pen nib gets a little bit munted. Those ones can be a little bit more on the budget friendly side, which is kind of nice. Let's see. So sneaking on to another question. We have, what drew you to chemistry and being a teacher? Do you regret leaving your job? Interesting question. Chemistry in particular was not going to be my thing. I was going to do biomedical science. I wanted to be a radiologist, but then I didn't realize that deadlines existed and you had to apply by a certain point in time. So I didn't apply soon enough. I'm like, okay, well, fine. I'll just go to Vic Uni. I'll do a biomedical science degree, and then like maybe I can transfer to radiology if I want to. Because I really enjoyed biology. I didn't actually enjoy chemistry all that much. Like, I liked science, but biology was more so where my true passion lied, at least at the start of uni. And then after one trimester of doing chemistry at university, I was like, actually, this is just way better. I like this so much more. And then I decided to change to doing a chemistry and maths degree. This one is Coral 131. So changed to doing a chemistry and maths degree, mainly in the chemistry side of things. The maths was just kind of like a minor. And then it was the last year of university, and I needed, like my undergraduate degree, I needed another class to earn some more points to like round out my degree or whatever. And I took a class called Science Communication, which was actually really interesting. It was a really good class. I quite enjoyed it. But as part of that, they had a lecturer from the teacher college come in and talk to us about, science communication, like via the form of teaching, like how teachers have to be good science communicators because you have to, pitch it down to a level that the kidlets can understand. So this one is Light Yellow Glaze 104. So it was about that time that I was just like, you know what? I've always kind of toyed with the idea of being a teacher. Like when I was in high school, I toyed with the idea of being a teacher, in particular a maths teacher though, because I was just like, maths can and should be fun. I would like to help make it that way. But by this point, I had a chemistry degree. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go off and do a master's of teaching and learning and become a teacher for chemistry. Do I miss my job? No, I don't think so. I enjoy what I do now so much that I don't miss my job. I do miss aspects of it. I miss having colleagues. I miss getting to interact with people on a more daily basis, like face-to-face type of a thing. This one is light green 171. But in terms of the actual like tasks that had to be done as part of that job, I don't miss it so much. I also had another question, which was about whether I hear from my old students. And no, not so much. You know, if I see them while I'm out and about, we'll say hi and stuff and check in, like, oh, you know, how's things going, all of that kind of thing. But I don't have them contact or reach out to me online or anything like that. And I'm pretty okay with that. It doesn't really bother me so much. Well, let's see. Oh, good question. Have you ever considered making an educational channel about chemistry on YouTube? I have not considered making one for chemistry, but I have considered making one for Excel because Excel is definitely a passion point of mine. So I was like, oh yeah, I could totally make an Excel related channel and kind of like do Excel basics and whatnot. But I'm just like, Jessica, you already have 2 YouTube channels, one of which you barely keep up with. So let's just calm the farm on that. I'm not necessarily opposed to it. It's just, you know, hours in the day, time that I have available and such. It wouldn't really permit that type of a thing. So let's see. What area or level of maths? Geometry, algebra, calculus, linear algebra, differential equations, inquiring minds would like to know. Honestly, my favorite was discrete mathematics. I like the whole like probabilities and, you know, if this, then that kind of things. They were of interest to me. Geometry was good too, but differential mathematics, get out. Discrete mathematics is where it's at. So we've got this one here being 172. Color that one in. Whee! So even here you can kind of see like the rainbow is definitely not perfect because that is a very interesting match to lead from one to the next. But yeah. Oh, well, I'm glad that you'd like to take an Excel class from me. As said, Excel is a passion point of mine. I do very much love Excel. So I think the idea of having an Excel channel would be totally cool. Yeah. I kind of hate Excel, but I need it. I love it. I love Excel. Excel and I are the bestest of friends. What's my second channel? Great question. That one is a vlog channel where I do, you know, videos and vlogs and whatnot. We used to have them as part of this channel, but because, you know, the niche or the kind of main gig over here is journaling and journal related content, it was kind of detrimental to this channel to have a different topic in amongst it. So I put it on a separate channel. That one's called JashiiCorrin Vlogs, at least currently. At the time of watching it, you know, this video, it is called JashiiCorrin Vlogs. But I am not very good at keeping up with it. We used to have a series called The Week That Was, which is every week a vlog about like what I got up to that week. And I kept that up for a decent long while, but eventually I let it go because I transitioned to not being a teacher anymore. I was doing YouTube full time and my weeks started to look really repetitive and boring, I guess. Like, I know it would probably be an interest point to some people, like, you know, life of a content creator, what is she up to? I'm like, honestly, it's a lot of sitting. It's a lot of sitting at my desk, making videos, editing videos, and watching somebody sit at a desk for excessive amounts of hours probably isn't, like, the most exciting thing to most people. So I kind of, like, you know, filmed for a couple weeks, and then I got really behind on editing them, and it got to a point where it's like, this does not spark joy, so I will not finish those off. I do on very, very occasionally post on there. Anytime I do a like a trip or something like that, usually much further out from when the trip happened, I have been posting the actual footage of that because it takes me quite a while to edit them. Typically when I do a vlog, there's a lot of clips and having to edit all those clips together takes a hot minute. So I could get to it eventually, but it's nice to have the memories there. It's nice to have the kind of edited together experience or whatnot, but I'm not very good at getting around to it. And I think part of that is because it is technically it would be just for funsies. It's not paid. Like I don't get any kind of like monetary kickback for releasing vlogs. So because of that, it means that any time, effort, energy I'm spending on those is coming out of what would be my like leisure time, quote, quote. But I want to do other things with my leisure time, so I don't really do them. I did release a vlog recently, which was for the Sydney Bookshop Hop, which is where Rachel, Monica, myself went over to Sydney to meet up with Deb and Denise, and we went bookshop hopping. So it's effectively like a bar crawl, like a pub crawl, but it's for books. Went and got a whole bunch of books. I didn't actually buy any books, but it was nice, going around seeing Sydney and such. So I edited that one because I was sick, and I didn't want to film anything because I didn't want to have to do any voiceovering because my throat was disgusting and I was just feeling a mess. And I was like, this is kind of fun because I can look back on the memories and such, and then it means that my travel buddies will also have the video to look back on, which would be nice. But when it's a trip that's just for me or like for just me and Vogel, it's like, no, we don't need to do that. There's no real rush or timeline on that kind of a thing. Are you still doing your podcasts? Yes, definitely. We have that come out every 2 weeks over at the Planner Pals podcast, which is a podcast that's hosted by myself and Mark of Mark Your Pages. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of the one element of my job that actually has somebody else involved. Kinda, because we also have a question a little further on was, did you ever find the editor you were looking for? I do have an editor now. They edit any of the videos where it's like a setup video that's time-lapsed and I talk over the top. So what they do is that they go and cut out all the parts where my hands aren't on screen because I'm just sitting there looking at the page like, what do I do next? Which is not very compelling footage to watch. So they go and trim out all of those parts for me because it takes a hot minute. It doesn't take in terms of the editing process, it does not take the longest amount of time, but it is something that I can comfortably pass off to somebody else, if that kind of makes sense, because I am a little bit hands-on with things. I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want to give away the ability or creativity of making these and whatever else and such, but it's been really nice working with her. It's been good to have a team that is now 2 people technically. So she does what I call the pre-edits, and then I still go over the top and like time lapse the footage, match it to the amount of stuff that I have to say in the video, because I don't really like to have periods of non-talking in my videos, mainly because when I watch videos, if the person stops talking, I get into that mindset of like, if I just wanted to listen to music, I'd put my own music on. Like as much as your nice piano background music is pleasant, it's just not what I would want to listen to typically. So yeah, in terms of podcasting though, that one I work with Mark. Mark typically does the first edit of it. So we film it together via Riverside, and then he will edit the vlog, get out podcast. He'll send it to me so that I can watch it, because I, being the persnickety biscuit I am, will then go through and be like, oh no, we need to cut that out, and this needs to be changed or whatever. It's not so much like that anymore. When we first started, because our editing styles were very different, there were a lot of kind of like points I was like, can we maybe change X, Y, and Z and whatnot, and he was very good about it. I do appreciate that. But nowadays it's more so he sends it to me and I just give it the okay sign off, and then I make the thumbnail and upload it, and that's kind of how our process works for that. But we do one podcast per fortnight or per every 2 weeks. Also, gosh guys, Tink, make sure that you're having a bevy. Yeah, it's very much that, Candace. It's like, yeah, when it's your name on your work, it can be hard to delegate. I think it's the thing. It's like anything that's coming out with my name on it, I get a little bit particular about how it is or whatnot. Also, if as we've gone through, you've sent through a question and I've missed it, just send it through again. I'm taking an intentional question break right now, so I'm going to go and find the next question that we had. This one was, how did you start content creating? And I'd love to make a YouTube, but I'm nervous. I'm like, oh, don't be nervous. I mean, I completely understand. If you go back and listen to some of my first videos, you could tell by the tone of her voice how nervous she was. Even watching some of the ones from a couple of years into the piece, I'm just watching yourself back on camera is so super cringe in general. So it's like, okay, like, take all of this with a grain of salt. But I found that I had a bunch of ideas that I wanted to share. I like sharing. I like sharing ideas in general. Had a lot of ideas that I wanted to share, and Instagram just wasn't cutting it. Like, I could, snap a picture of a layout and write in the caption what it's about and whatnot, but I couldn't show the process of making it. I couldn't, point and explain, because this was the point of time where we didn't really have reels or anything like that. Doing videos on Instagram wasn't really a big thing, but I wanted to be able to explain stuff, and I wanted to be able to share ideas and whatnot. But the biggest reason that I got started, or the kind of, I guess, thing that gave me the, I don't think courage is necessarily the right word, the audacity. If I was just in the other side going, the audacity. Yeah, so the thing that gave me the audacity to start was probably watching Cindy of Llama Letters, Cindy Guntrip-Waldo, because she swore in her videos, and I swear a lot. I try not to swear as much on the channel. I think I do a fairly good job. Actually, I think I do a damn good job. And every time somebody who comments saying I wish you wouldn't swear so much, I'm like, you don't even know how much I'm holding back, bruh. You don't even know the extent of it. But I really appreciated her video content, because she wasn't like the other. She's not like other girls. She didn't seem as, this is going to sound rude, she didn't seem as put together as other people, but in the most genuine, authentic, and refreshing way, if that kind of makes sense. And it's like, well, hey, if, she can be doing this, then why the heck not? I could do that. I have ideas that I want to share, and I like the idea of being able to make a connection with people in a format like this, where you talk to other people and whatever. Yeah, you subscribed to Cindy as soon as you heard us swear. Exactly that. So it was just really nice to hear that. It was just refreshing. So I decided to get started. But one of the best things that happened, I guess, for me, specifically, is that this is when they were changing the requirements for being a YouTube partner, or getting paid via YouTube monetization and such. And so I had put out my first video by this point. Then they changed the requirements for what you had to do, or the kind of criteria you had to meet in order to be paid via YouTube. And so Cindy had put out a video about this. She's like, this is really going to stuff around people who have previously met the requirements, but they don't have it anymore or anything like that. And as part of that, she said, I want to help support smaller creators. So if you're a smaller creator, and in our planning space kind of a thing, then comment below and I'll add your most recent video to a playlist or whatever. And so she set up this playlist of all of these creators who were smaller planner related creators and had posted a video recently about, whatever, setting up something, or a New Year setup or something like that. And so that is how I got my first views, was because Cindy added my video to a playlist. I was very, very grateful for that. And I think it's part of the thing that I like to do with my channel. It's this idea of, lifting up other people in our community and such, and getting to showcase their work and whatnot and stuff. And that's why I like to do those collaboration videos with other people. It's nice to get to showcase the good ideas of other people and help strengthen our community by, effectively showing them off, kind of a thing. So this one is, I know I've not been telling you any of the color names. Hopefully they're fairly readable. It's kind of, let's see, a little bit brighter. There we go. That looks nice. I miss Cindy too. I miss Cindy's videos, but Cindy's got to do what Cindy's got to do. And hopefully we can welcome her back at a point in time where she has the capacity to be making those videos for us. Because breath of fresh air she was. Because I think that this was around the time of, and I'm not throwing Boho Berry under the bus here, but this was very much the point in time where Boho Berry was the most popular bullet journal creator, at least. And her style and the way that she did her videos was distinctly different to what Cindy was doing. Let's see, we need some more pens. It's okay, because I've got more pens. Don't worry, there's more. All of these pinks look the same. That's probably because some of them are the same. That's all right. It doesn't really matter. I do know I have some duplicates, just because I didn't buy these as individual pens. I bought them as sets, and some of those sets do have crossover. But this one here is 107, which is cadmium yellow. Very punchy yellow. There we go. Put that one down on the page. So, in terms of questions that we had, would you ever create a video of layouts or ideas for spiritually oriented journals? I'm not necessarily like opposed to the idea. It's just that I also feel like I don't have the knowledge set for it, which means it would require a lot of research on my part to make sure that I was kind of, doing the best job possible, I guess. Like, for instance, with the video that we recently had come out, which was gaming related layouts, that one took me for flippin' ever because I wanted to be as inclusive as possible. I wanted to be as kind of like complete as possible in terms of the ideas I'm sharing, but I only play very particular types of games, which means that I'm not necessarily, if we think about my idea generation process and such, I wouldn't think of the things that would be necessary for those types of journals without doing a whole bunch of research to make sure that I'm, paying mind to it, if that kind of makes sense. Similar idea with spirituality. It's like I wouldn't know what people would want or need from a spiritual journal because I am not using those types of layouts in my notebooks, if that kind of makes sense. So not opposed, just it would take a lot of effort. What size are we using for the swatch book? This is a B6. I wanted something that was kind of cute and compact and also just didn't need a lot of pages, mainly because I wasn't expecting to fill like too much of this. I liked the idea of being able to have kind of one spread per larger set of pens. So like this set of pens is 60 pens, for instance. So one spread per felt like a good amount. The issue I have with this though, and it's not necessarily a journal issue, it's a me issue. I really wish I had a pre-thought about the idea that we have 32 dot grid spaces up and down, which means that you could very comfortably fit 15 boxes if this was a line higher. I do not have it a line higher because I didn't want it to get too close to the header, which means that each of these columns is 14, but I have a lot of pen sets that come in like 60, 30, which would be great for 15 because, yeah, if I didn't have this be here, if I had it one higher and had an extra box on the end of all of these, then I could have had these 4, but I don't because I made poor choices, but it's fine. It's fine. So let's see. Oh, question. I like the starting it with a big question. That's so helpful because I see the capitals. I see the capitals. So I have the Faber-Castell brush pens I don't see on your list. Do you think they don't make it anymore? 220 light indigo. That one is right here. So they do still have it. I believe they still have it. I at least have it. It's the one that looks kind of like this, and I put it in the gray section because it was so pale of a blue that I'm like, you're practically a gray. So should be still available for that one. Let's see. We had a question back there, didn't we? And I need to go and find it. Meow. I'm really bad at being able to pick them out of the lineup, which is why starting with the all caps question is very, very helpful. Tarot. I like the idea of tarot. I don't necessarily heavily believe in the idea of like I pick up a card and that card kind of like shows me part of how life's gonna go down or something like that. Can you tell how much I don't know about tarot? Like I do. I think that the people who make tarot decks do absolutely beautiful work. I love the artistry of it, but I don't necessarily believe in the kind of like destiny or fate aspect of it. And again, if you're into tarot and I'm completely talking out my butt, I apologize. I don't really know a lot about it, but I am curious about how the process works. It's just not necessarily something that I have taken the time to research. It would be something that would be worth learning more about, though. It's one of those things. It's like I'm the kind of person who will read the horoscope just because I want to see what it says, more so than it's like, okay, this is actually going to like, tell me how things are going to go down either today, tomorrow, this week or whatnot. Let's see. How much did you consult Community Spaces, the team, to make the gaming video? Quite a lot. I asked them a couple of times in the gaming space that we have in the Discord community so that I could kind of idea source from them, and then also did a whole bunch of like just looking up ideas online and such to try and find different ideas, because there are types of gaming that I just don't play. Like anything multiplayer that isn't couch co-op, I don't really play. So I had to go and find the kind of organizational things that people would actually value from those types of games. Yeah, you were looking in the blues. No, yeah, very, very fair, because it is technically a pale blue. And I did think about putting it in the pale blue section, but it seemed to make more sense over there. But let's see. Oh, we love it. Question. What's been your favorite reading event besides your own, of course, because that's likely your favorite? Yeah, I really loved Deck of TBR-a-thon. It actually incentivized me to read, which is, in my mind, is the point of doing a reading challenge or whatnot. So Deck of TBR-a-thon was hosted last year, I think in July, maybe. And the general idea was like you pick a card from a deck of cards, and then depending on what it's not a suit. What's the thing? Like what number, I guess. Whatever number you got from the card dictated what type of prompt you had. So, for instance, if you picked up like a king, it was about genres, maybe something like that. But then you can kind of like pick the level of challenge you tackled based on that. So, like a 1-pointer would be like your favorite genre. A 3-pointer would be different to the genre you last read, and a 5-pointer would be like a genre you like hardly ever read or something like that. I thought that one was a lot of fun. It did very much incentivize me to read, even if there were a couple of times where I was like, I would pull a card and I'd look at the prompt and I'm just like, we're just gonna pretend that didn't happen. It's fine. It didn't happen every time. It only happened a couple of times, but in terms of getting me to read a lot, that one worked really well. I do like the Aurelium challenge. I just don't find that I do it in the month in question, mainly because with the prompt list that you get, you have a certain number of classes, each of the classes give you a prompt or like whatever. Having to read that much in a month is often too much for me, so I tend to not do that. This one I've got a double up off, so I've already colored it in. That's why it's going to the side. But I love the creativity of it. I think that the creativity of it is really, really cool. It was August, all right, yes, because in my mind I'm like, no, Aurelium was in August. We couldn't possibly have been in August. Yeah, it was in August, because Aurelium actually went to September, and that's why I ended up picking up Deck of TBR-a-thon, because I was like, I was like so like leaning into the idea of doing Deck of TBR-a-thon. Aurelium, and then G's like, we're having it a month later. I'm like, but what am I gonna do now? It wasn't Leandra. Leandra did the haunted house one, or like the TBR harvest in October. Leandra seems to have a lot of challenges. I again, the creativity of it, so cool. I can't remember who it was, but in my mind I want to say Becca Books and Bujo's, but I think that I might be talking schmack because my memory is bad. My memory is bad. But let's see. Alrighty. Next question. I know you've made travel bujos. Is there anything you'd add to one in the future that you may have missed in the last ones? I find that oftentimes with my travel journals, like typically the travel journals I set up, they are mainly for go wild, because it's something that I feel like, it's a planner convention. I want to set up a planner for it. It feels special. Outside of that though, anytime I take a trip, typically speaking, the only things that I end up setting up are a packing list, and I just do it in my regular everyday journal, because in terms of the way that I like to memory keep, I usually like to do photos and videos. That's usually how I would go about it. In terms of the stuff that I set up in my journal for Go Wild last time, I think that I did a fairly decent job of having everything I needed. It was Becca Books and Bujo. Excellent. I'm glad. Yeah. Along with already booked from Chloe. Good. I'm glad that my memory isn't that bad. I don't think there's anything in particular. Maybe just like some photo collage pages would probably be the thing that I would probably think of, mainly because more recently I have been getting into the idea of doing just a little bit, like little small pieces of photo-based memory keeping. So like here's some, just sticking some pictures into my journal and whatnot. So it would be nice to have maybe a couple pictures that I could stick in and then write some captions about. So, we went out for dinner type of a thing. But outside of that, not so much. Let's see. Ooh, yeah, I'm trying to travel journal for a trip that starts this Wednesday. Any spread or topic recommendations? I have a full video for it, if that helps. I don't want to overwhelm you, given the fact that it starts on a Wednesday. I guess it really depends. Like, are you the type of person who wants to document your trip via a journal, or would you be more inclined to try and document your trip in other ways, like photos, videos, or whatnot? Not to say that you can't stick photos into a journal. It can be nice, I find, for the photos in particular, to have some kind of written media to go alongside it, so it provides context. But that's also why I prefer video, because I can talk over the top of it. So it's like you're getting the words, the context and such in that way, but without having to write things, because I do not do a lot of writing. Biggest thing would just be making sure that you have a packing list, depending on the type of trip you're going on, like the like time you're going for, like where you're going for, all of that kind of thing. That was bad English, but hopefully you get the idea. Having not only a packing list for when you leave, but also a packing list for when you're coming back, so that you remember to put everything in your bag. I lost my tripod, my little mini tripod, while we went away one time, and I was devastated. I was very sad, because it's actually a piece of equipment that I do tend to use semi-frequently. I got a new one, but it would have been nice to not have to get a new one. So sometimes having a packing list that has 2 columns, depending on how many stops or whatever you have. So it's like, let's just say that you went to 2 different places. You'd have the packing list for when you were at home. You'd have the packing list for when you finished up at the first location, and then the packing list for when you finish up at the second location, so that you can check items off as they go back into your case to make sure that they all come home with you. But otherwise, you would also want to probably think about the point of the trip. Like, why are we traveling? Are we traveling to experience like a different culture? Or are we experiencing like, food? Food is a big one for me always. So is there anything that you want to do in terms of documenting that kind of stuff? Also thinking about your travel journals, just like core purpose. Is the purpose memory keeping, or is the purpose organization prior and during trip? Because what you end up putting in there is going to be different depending on those purposes. Purposes? Yeah. Like, yeah, the stuff that you would probably want to put in based on like, I'm trying to organize myself so that I can have like, a stress-free trip, is going to be different compared to I'm taking this trip and I want to document all of the stuff that happens as like a kind of like ledger memory keeper type thing. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. As I said, we do have a separate video on the channel that's about like, I think it's got like 30 ideas for your travel journal or whatnot, but could be useful possibly. Will you be going to Go Wild this year? I am booked in. I am ready to go. Yes, I am. I'm very much looking forward to it. In my mind, it's still like 6 months away. That is definitely not the case. It is not 6 months away. I should probably start thinking about setting up my journal for that. I pressed a lot of pressure on this pen, and now the line work is very large compared to the rest of them. It's not the worst thing, but it's certainly not the best thing. That looks cute. That one is 177 Walnut Brown. Oh, slowly but surely, we're getting this filled in. It's looking cute. But yeah, I'm looking forward to going to Go Wild. I haven't been to Indianapolis. I mean, like, the only places I have been to in the United States are the places that Go Wild have been, plus Florida. Yeah, where is Go Wild this year? It is going to be in Indianapolis, in Indiana. Which I was like, Indianapolis in Indiana. What a silly way to name it. It makes sense. So hopefully that answers everybody's questions about that one. Which search chart are you using? I don't know if this is a question for me, but it sounds interesting. I don't know what a search chart is. Please explain if this question is for me. It might not even be for me, but let's see. Oh, hello from the US. I'm in middle school right now. I find bullet journaling so good for me. Yay! I'm glad you like it. I can stay organized while also being creative. Question: do you have any tips for Bujo for young people? I would say that biggest tip is probably, if this is something that works for you, which you've said it is, so like, yay, love that. Make sure that you are going to be like willing to be flexible when you move into the new stage of your life, right? So like right now you're in middle school. If and or when you get to high school, it's going to happen. I believe in it. But like, if that changes the kind of like structure of your days and such, because typically speaking, for most people going from middle school to high school, things do change. make sure that you update your journal accordingly. Like, be willing to kind of like relearn your system, I guess, is kind of the way of thinking about it. Like, if we think about the things that you would need to organize as a middle schooler versus the stuff that you would need to organize as a high schooler versus the stuff you would need to organize as possibly like a university student or like when you get a job or anything like that, like the needs of your journal will be different. So make sure that you kind of allow for that kind of flexibility in your system when you get to those stages. I know that, like, for instance, slightly different example, but for instance, one of the things that I used to do in my journal was a lot of teacher planning. So, related to my classes that I was teaching and the materials that I had to prepare for that and all of that kind of stuff. And when I moved to not being a teacher anymore, I did feel kind of like this weird sense of loss. It's like, oh no, like I've lost the things that I can do in my journal now. Like, what even is the point of you anymore and such? And it's like, obviously there's still a point. I'm still journaling, kind of a thing. But just be aware that that kind of situation will probably come up, and you're gonna maybe have to change some stuff and to make it work as well for you as possible. So hopefully that helps. But I'm glad that you find it helpful. That pleases me greatly. So which swatch chart are you using? Thank you. Excellent. So this one came from, it's like a variation of the one that they have on, I think, the Faber-Castell website or whatnot. The Faber-Castell website one just came in number order, which meant that like some of the colors were in a decent order and some of them were trash. Some of them just like were not in the right order at all. You had like a yellow right next to a pink, and I'm like, no. So what I effectively did was go into like Photoshop, like took the picture from the Faber-Castell website and started cutting out the boxes and putting them in the order I wanted to so I could get a nice rainbow. So this is a variation of the one that they have on the Faber-Castell website. Just trying to put things in a nicer order. Good question. What is Go Wild? So Go Wild is a planner conference that happens pretty much annually in the US, where a bunch of planner people get together and have a fun, groovy time. They usually have like planner related speakers, and they have sponsored tables and such. So they're like sponsored with a bunch of journaling supplies and whatnot. And so you sit down at your table, you get a whole bunch of stuff, which is nice. And they have a planner, like plan jammer party. So it's like a planner people, because that's who the conference is for, but we all wear pajamas and we dance around and have drinks and have a good time. It's really, in my mind, it's just a bit of fun. It is not very budget friendly, but it is also the pretty much one time a year that I actually get to go see my online friends, because in terms of my job and colleagues and whatnot, people that I often communicate with don't live near me, but a chunk of them do go to Go Wild. So it's like my opportunity to go and see my friends, which is quite nice. Yeah, so that should be a good time. So I use my black Tombow for March, and it stained the top and bottom of the pages. Dang. Do you mean like over the edge? Like, or did it sink in so much that it kind of seeped through to the other side? Because in terms of protecting other pages from, coloring in and such, what I will typically do is I will get a separate piece of paper. Not this one, because this is actually my labels for my journal, but I'll just put that there and then color off the page, so that then any of the ink goes onto here, not the pages underneath it. But also, because I'm not doing as many passes over, it typically doesn't sink in as much and kind of like stain the edge of the page. It can be a little bit tricky. Oftentimes, if I want to get a really good quality of black, though, I will just use paper instead of a pen. So instead of coloring the page in, I will go in with like blackout paper and just stick it to the page. But hopefully that helps. That's a major bummer. Let's see. I recall you started journaling in November 2016. How did you get your new journal start to align with the new year? Did you abandon journals that weren't quite full? I think that the first one I kind of used to the point where I was like, I'm just kind of sick of you. Like, I wanted a fresh start. But that one went from, I think, like November 2016 to May, like end of May or something. So it lasted 7 or so months. And then the next one I had went from June to December. And I think there was probably like a little bit of space left at the end of that one. But since then, I've been on this kind of like new year, new journal kind of cycle. It was probably just a fluke, but yeah, it would be a little bit of just abandoning a journal that wasn't quite full. Because I love the fresh slate feeling of starting in a new journal with a new year. You know, if I had gotten to a situation now, whatnot, where I started one in November and if I got into a situation now where I had to start a new one in November, I would just pick a really small journal. I would just pick a really little journal that either has like way fewer pages or like way smaller space on the page or whatnot. Maybe I'll do an A6 for 2 months or something so that I could start the new year with a new journal, because that is pleasing to my soul. I appreciate that new slate feeling. Let's see. How do you keep from doing all the things, including when you know it won't help you every time? I know I need to go minimal, and yet I always fill space with stickers and get overwhelmed. That one's tricky. I think that setting up a theme for the month often is quite helpful for this, mainly because if I'm only using one pack of stickers for a whole month or whatnot, I need to make them last. So then I get into the kind of scarcity mindset. I'm like, weaponizing the scarcity mindset in a very positive way for myself. This is 129. We've already colored that one in. So for instance, the ones that I'm using this month, let me bring this over. I have a little collection of ones that are kind of like odd shapes, in the sense of like the outline, the actual shapes themselves like aren't odd, they're pictures. Got those ones, and then I've got the kind of like tarot card looking ones, which are like this. And in my mind I'm like, oh gosh, you don't have that many of them, you need to hoard them. And I'm like, there are definitely plenty here for the entire month, and I'm probably going to have some left over when I finish. But even just that mindset means that I'm not going to go and bombard the page with a bunch of stuff, which is kind of helpful. I also find that because I am the type of person who who does write a lot when it comes to filling things in my journal, I am always going to make sure that I have enough space to write. Like I kind of prioritize having a lot of writing space over having a lot of decorated space. So that's probably like a very not satisfying answer, but hopefully it helps a little bit. Yeah, play into scarcity mindset. Don't let yourself use too many supplies to start with, and then that will probably help you out a little bit. Also, remember, it's good to have a drink break. Oh, yes. Yeah, I think that just like curating the amount of stuff you're using can be very helpful for making sure that you don't do yourself an overwhelm. This one we have already done. Put that one to the side. I have a lot of double ups of these. The grey ones in particular, because they came in multiple sets. The grey one. Hello, Vogel. How's it going?
Yeah, not bad.
Vogel says he's not bad. Vogel says hello?
Hello.
Vogel says hello.
I enjoyed you saying I swear less on the channel, and I was like, I counted a heck and I counted a damn.
A heck and a damn isn't a swear, unless, I don't know, for some people it probably is, but I don't really consider a heck and a damn to be a swear.
It's part of your culture, you're allowed to swear.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Vogel. Vogel says it's part of my culture to swear, so I should be allowed. Alrighty. Yeah. The people say hello to you too, Vogel.
Hello.
Vogel says hello again. Let's see. Do you have any tips for when you make a nice setup in your journal and then forget/never get around to filling it in? Da-na-na-na. I can understand that. That is such a bummer. I'm going to go get you an example. I'm going to get you an example for this. Creak, creak, creak. Those are my legs working, by the way. So it doesn't happen so much anymore, mainly because I am very particular about pre-planning what I include in my journal. So I take a lot of time to kind of consider, like, what does life have in store for me this month? What's coming up? Like, what will actually be useful and whatever else. So that then I don't get into an instance where I'm setting up things that I don't end up using. That has not always been the case. As an Aussie, you 100% agree that it's part of my culture. Thank you. So there we go. We'll put this one over here, and I'm just putting some stars on these so that then I know what's going on. So for instance, this August, which was August 2021, I think, I did a setup that was, I don't know, Olaf's summer holiday inspired, and I spent so much time putting these pictures in and doing this lettering style, and I was like, oh my god, I feel so good about this kind of a thing. Had my little decorative pieces on the calendar. I spent such a long time drawing in all of these Snogies because I was going to go and fill in their facial features or like their smile based on my mood for the day. And you can see how that went. Some of them are smiling, some of them look a little bit low-key terrified and whatnot. And that's because around this time I got stuck in Australia. Like I couldn't leave because they ended up being in a snap lockdown type thing, and it was like a whole deal. But that meant that this time log layout that I made, I just didn't end up using. So what I did, instead of sticking the pages together and getting all down on myself and all of this kind of stuff, I just wrote myself a note about why I didn't use it. So now it's more of like a memory keeping page than it is the time log. Even though it says time log, like it's fine. I have the kind of context that helps me see why I didn't end up using it. And thus it has become a page that's, I think, a little bit more, it's like a kind of a page that feels a little bit more special because I didn't just ignore it. I kind of like wrote things down for myself. I have also been journaling for quite a while, so I have a pretty good idea of not only what I'm going to need, but also what I have like the mental capacity to be able to do. Time logging is one of those things that in my mind is a high energy task because it takes effort to be paying attention pretty much constantly to when you're doing things. For instance, this one here, I got like a good chunk of the way through the month and then I fell off on it. As is the way. Oftentimes when I do a monthly tracker, I will fall off on it partway through the month. But going through and like marking in when things were happening and then coloring those things in, just a lot of effort, and I didn't have the bandwidth for it, so I just wrote myself a note. Yeah, this is the part that bummed me out the most because I missed Rachel's birthday and I was bummed. Like I think I had missed it a couple months prior to this. Maybe, I don't know. Around here, somewhere around here, I missed Rachel's birthday and I was bummed. But I also don't feel too poorly about not using a layout. It's like oh look, you tried. I can kind of see it more as a like a learning experience. So for instance, this one I felt really, really cool about doing these little cutouts. So you can see that we've got like a Dutch door on either side here, and I felt very good about that. So it's like I have little checklists on the side and I can write things down and whatnot, and I thought that this was really, really like just a fun layout, and you can see how much it got used. It didn't really get used to the extent where I was only maybe a couple days into it or barely even a day into it, and I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work out. So I just started something else, and this is where I really started to lean into the Alastair method, and this worked so well for me, and the satisfaction that I had using this completely outweighed my disappointment of this. Like, I still love the way it looks. I think it looks really fun, but I didn't use it. It's all good. But so let's go have a look. You did that 2 weeks of tracking things, right? Yeah, I had a time tracking experiment where I tracked my time in 15-minute increments for 2 weeks, but I also didn't put that in my journal because I knew that it was going to be too much admin to do in my journal. I ended up doing it on Excel because then it could auto calculate and all of that kind of stuff, because I really wanted to use that data to help me make a better schedule for myself. So that's kind of thing. It's like picking your place, picking your time for doing things and whatnot, and that only comes with experience. So I very much like to tackle my journal in the way of like, what can this teach me? I'm going to be a learner in this experience. What kind of can I get out of it, I suppose, rather than being all like negative Nelly because I didn't fill in my planner, which used to happen. Used to get kind of down on myself about those kind of things, but like I don't need to do that anymore. This one is from a while ago. I highlighted it a hot second ago, so apologies that I'm only just getting to it, but still a marker question. I noticed that when you do the second line highlight, you wipe the ink pool off the end. Does this actually help get rid of the ink pool? Yes, and that is why I do it. So if you ever see me in my videos, like, getting my pen out, going line, and then I go like this, like plink, that's just me splotching the little pool of ink that happens at the end of a swipe with my very trusty blotter known as my finger. This is not the best blotter to use, not gonna lie, not a great product, wouldn't recommend. It has other uses, but not so much blotting ink, but it does mean that I don't get those little kind of pools of ink at the end of each stroke, and it makes things look a little bit more consistent in terms of the color, which I personally appreciate. Is it necessary? No. Is it going to be more necessary for certain types of pens? Yes. Some pens will get very ink dumpy at the end of a stroke. The Tombos are pretty okay, but certain other pens, they give you a lot of ink at the end, and that one's kind of a mess. But we'll bring back our baby. Where did she go? Here she is. Here she is. The baby, she's back. Question. Did ask this on Insta, so if you've already done that and I already missed it, ignore me. What or who are your favorite Boudreaux resources? Love that. I appreciate that I am one of your favorite Boudreaux resources. That makes me feel special. Favorite Boudreaux resources. I like watching a lot of content creators just because I just fully live in the journal space, I swear. Even if I'm not necessarily getting ideas from them, I just enjoy the illusion of company, I suppose. So I love watching Erin's videos. I love watching Remy's videos. Lenka, like Remy, Art and Boudreaux's, Book and Boudreaux. I can't remember their channel name. My apologies. In terms of like as a resource, that one's hard. I rely a lot more on aggressive problem solving than I do on finding specific inspiration from other people, if that kind of makes sense. But yeah, I think that in terms of like a resource, I suppose, I'm going to consider the resource to be filling a need, and the need that I have is the illusion of company. So anytime that I'm going to go through my list, actually. I'm going to go find my list on YouTube, and we're going to read through them, because if I like them enough to subscribe to them, it's probably somebody that I definitely value. I will watch pretty much any video that these people will put out. Heart Breathings, Sarah Cannon, Erin Smith, Creative Minds Coffee Grinds. I will watch pretty much any video that Tori Ramos puts out. I will watch pretty much any video that Cozy with Katie puts out. She just has a very pleasant voice. I will watch pretty much any video that Savannah Scribbles puts out. Pretty much any video that, let's see, I didn't like scroll down because like some of these people are just not related to what's this thing that we're doing? Journaling. Yeah, I'm obviously really on board with what I'm doing here, but hopefully that's a decent enough list. I think that those are genuinely the people that I will kind of like, every single video you put out, I'm watching it type of a thing. That is probably my list of go-tos. There are probably other ones, but yeah. I'm glad that you love the cute little swatchbook. I love the cute little swatchbook too. It's been nice to be doing it in something a little bit smaller than what I use for other stuff a lot of the time. So also, I'm glad that this has made you feel better. Yeah, if you're ill, like, it's cool. We can just write our little note saying, like, I was sick, kind of thing. I did that last year in February. I put a little sticky note in my journal and just said, this didn't get used because I was unwell, or this didn't get used because I went away on holiday and forgot to, remember. I forgot to remember. That makes sense. Forgot to remember that I don't really use my journal when I go away on holiday. And by writing those little notes, it gives us this opportunity to treat it more like a learning moment. I have learned many times over, and will probably continue to learn many times over, that if I am going away on a trip, I will not be using my journal pretty much most of the time. I will use it maybe the last 2 days that I'm there, so that then I can write some stuff down for when I get back. But outside that, not so much. So how would you recommend starting a journal at a random time in the year? I missed setup for the new year, so I've been guilty procrastinating. I mean, I'm going to give you the really super helpful idea of just do it. No, I hate that. I hate it when people say just do things. It's so gross. I'm like, that isn't helpful. Why are you doing this to me? I started my first journal on the 4th of November, 2016, which also very much relates to a question we have later, which is when did you start journaling and how has that evolved? But I started my first journal on the 4th of November, which is a very... like, it's a very unsexy time to start because you're not like, it's not like new year new me kind of a thing or anything like that, but it at least gave me an opportunity to test and trial run things before I did my New Year setup, which I thought was great. So for instance, like if you want to start now, this would be a really great time to start because you can test and trial things before Q2. I do love the idea of like a line in the sand as a kind of milestone moment or whatnot. And really great milestone moments I find are things like New Year's and the start of new quarters. Like New Year's Day or the start of the second half of the year is a really nice one, or the start of a new quarter. So for me, my new quarter is going to be starting on, you don't have to do it on this day, but just like, as an example, my new quarter is starting on the 31st of March because it's the Monday of the first week of April. Yeah. Even though it's in March. But you could start on April 1st as your first quarter, be like, yes, this is my line in the sand. Everything before then has been just trying things out. It can be very satisfying to have that. But in terms of like what you would do in your journal to get started, if we think about like typical start of journal setup bits and pieces, I would probably still put in a full year calendar for this year. If you wanted to, if that's like, something that you want to have, like a year at a glance. So if we're going to zoom out here, we're going to go through the start of journal setup and we're going to consider how this would work. Excuse me, baby, please move. So this one here, this is my everyday journal. This is the one that gets a new year set up every year in like a new journal or whatnot. And in terms of the layouts that we have in here, so this is just, start of journal stuff. This isn't very exciting. We've got a little pocket in the front type thing, which you can have or not if you want to, but you might not necessarily need it because I do my planning a little bit differently. So I have like the cyclic calendar here, which unless you're doing cyclic planning, you probably don't need, which means you probably start somewhere like here. Yeah. So having your year at a glance that shows you when each day of the year is going to fall and whatnot. If I were to do this for, having my official start in April, then I would probably start this in April. Like I would just move all of this up and put the first 3 months of the new year on here. If that gives your brain the heebie-jeebies and you're like, abso-hecking-lutely not, totally fine. You can just do it like this. You still have 9 months of this calendar year to put on here. It's going to be great. So opportunity to push this one up, put the next 3 months, so like, the start of 2026, or you could just have the regular year at a glance. In terms of your future log, I would not go back and do my future log from the start of the year because then it puts unnecessary pressure on yourself to fill those boxes. I do my future log by quarters just because I don't need to have such a granular breakdown of when things are happening in each of the individual months because I don't use this to an extent where I need to have that much space. But if we open up something like this guy who we had before, this one is a different style of future log. And you can see that because this journal started in July, I just put July as the first month here. If you're starting it this month, which is what, March, you can put March here. And that's totally fine. There's nothing that specifically says like you have to start this on like the first month of the year or anything like that. If that makes your brain happy though, if it makes your head hole feel good, then go forth, put that as January, and you can kind of like backlog things, but don't feel like you need to. So pushing that one over there. Yeah, there we go. Petition to make the 4th of November National Journalist Day. It feels, it's like my journaling anniversary. I celebrate it in my own little way every year. So that would probably be how I would tackle the future log. Like, if you don't want to backtrack it, if you feel like that's going to be like, a burden to entry or something, you're like, oh, I have to do this extra work and like re-record stuff that's already happened, just don't do it. Just make it start on March. Totally fine. This one is kind of more specifically for me, so probably not something you maybe want to include. That's for my life admin gamification. What would actually be better than looking at my one, because this one's very tailored to me. Let's go look at the other one, because that one would make more sense. So we have future log, which we already kind of talked about. This one's my 101 things list. So if you have like a list of goals or whatnot, the nice part about a list of goals is that it's not necessarily specifically time-based. So, you can have this for any period of time you want. If it's going to be your goals for March through to June, then there's nothing that needs to say on here like, oh, these don't include the first 2 months of the year. Woe is us. Like, that's fine. That was just a nice looking list type deal. This one is a similar idea. This is my 21 21s in 2021 because this was from 2021. Like, you don't have to have it say anywhere on here that like, hey, I didn't start on time, quote quote. Like you don't need to have anything that does that. So if you have any kind of layout that is like this, that's kind of like, gamifying stuff. In this case, I was gamifying the consumption or doing of these things, pick and choose your battles type thing. Doesn't even need to be tied to the year. If you wanted to do something like this, but you're like, oh gosh, I've missed 2 months of missed 2 months of the year already. I don't think I can do a 25 and 25. Then make it a 20 in 2025, or make it a 10 by 10 kind of thing, 10 things to do 10 times or whatnot. You do not have to tie things to the year, effectively, is what we're saying here. Oh, look, a layout that I started using and then gained weight and went, oh, no, this is over. So, do with that as you will, type of thing. Coming back to the idea of setting up things that we didn't end up using happens very often, but it looks cute. So at least there's that. I'm not super, super fussed with it, but yeah. The biggest thing that I would probably say is like, if you want to start now, do not feel like you have to go and backlog anything. Like you can just set your layouts up so that they start on the month that you're starting. And if you want to have them go for 6 months, then it's just like, March, April, June, July, August, September. Yeah. Or if you want to have them go for a full year, then it's just this March to next February. Like that is totally fine. This is not the journal I want. These are not the journals you're looking for. This is. Thank you. Here we go. Hopefully that gives you something to think about. Yeah, I like this idea. Every day is a new start. Yeah, and this is what I like about daily logs rather than weeklies. It's like if I miss one, whatever. I'll just pick it up the next day. It's all good. So, next question. Do you like the Zebra Sarasa mark-on, Muji pens, Sharpie S gels, or other pens as the main pen for your journal? I personally have been very much enjoying the Sarasa mark-on. I've been finding it very enjoyable to write with, so that's what I'm currently using. I haven't used an S gel before. The Muji pens I don't like writing with, but I do like outlining with, especially the 0.38. I think that's a really nice pen to outline other writing with. Like if I do, let's see, we'll find an example. I'm trying to find one that's not going to be like too much of a spoiler for people because we're looking in my reading journal. Alrighty, so like for instance, the Power of Moments here, like that one has been outlined with the 0.38 Muji pen. I find that one to be enjoyable to use for outlining because it's nice and thin, but it's still quite dark in terms of the black, like the blackness of the pen. But in terms of general writing, I don't really like it so much because it is quite inky and it takes a while to dry. Let's see. Question. When did you start journaling? We've got that one already. And how has that evolved? So in terms of starting, that was November 4th, 2016. And in terms of the evolvement of the journal, it has evolved in a lot of ways. If we think about evolvement in terms of like supplies and such, I've gone from using primarily LT1917s and being an LT1917 fangirl to using primarily Archer and Olive notebooks, or at least ones with 160 GSM paper. So like I also use like Typhosi notebooks and stuff like that as well. In terms of the actual layouts that I've been utilizing, notably because I've had a career change in that time, I don't use teaching layouts anymore, but I use a lot more stuff related to content making and planning out my content and whatnot. In terms of my decorative style, especially when I was doing things for YouTube, like once I started YouTubing, I was very much of this kind of like, had this mindset, I guess, where it's like everything that I do in my journal has to be hand drawn so that other people can do it too. Because I had this idea of like, oh, if I use a sticker and they can't get it, people will be angry at me. People won't want to watch my content because I'm using materials that they can't access, was the kind of mindset that I had. Which choices. I'm glad that it helped your brain so much. You're very, very welcome. So yeah, I had this idea in my head. I'm like, I can't use anything that is even remotely gonna be something people can't use. So everything has to be hand drawn. Nothing is allowed to be stickers or anything like that. I also hadn't really found a way that I like to use stickers anyway, so it wasn't really a big deal. But 114, I think we've already done this one. 114. Come on, you can find this. It's pale pink. Please tell me. Okay, yes, we've already done pale pink. It's already there. I'm like, I know you've done this. So that was probably one thing that's changed. Is like nowadays I do use stickers for decoration. I do use like, ripped out pieces of paper, and I do printed headers and all of this kind of a thing. So those kind of aspects of my process have changed. And it's not necessarily like for the better or for worse or anything like that. It's just for different. And I am totally fine with my journaling changing, because it means that I'm actually giving myself the opportunity to, figure out what I like and experiment with new things and all of that kind of stuff. I think that things that haven't changed is the idea of experimentation. Like, I love experimenting in my journal. I love trying new layouts and whatnot. Something that has changed, though, is my use of weekly logs. I just don't use weekly logs anymore. Not really. I have like a very small weekly dashboard, and that's because previously, when I was a teacher, finding those free pockets of time in each day to be able to do things was probably a lot more important, because I was working on somebody else's schedule effectively. Nowadays, I choose my own schedule for the most part, which comes with its own set of challenges. Oh dear. But it means that I don't necessarily need to tie things to a specific day, and I'm a lot more okay with writing something down for a Tuesday, not doing it, and then just tackling it on the Wednesday without rewriting it, if that kind of makes sense. But yeah. Hopefully that kind of answers your question. It's always interesting to think about. But next question. Did you ever get to do any cool chemistry experiments? Yeah, for sure. Plenty of them. Both while I was studying and also while I was a teacher. In terms of like favorite ones, a favorite chemistry experiment. There was one that effectively like it's about equilibrium reactions and this idea of like a reaction that can go back and forth type of a thing. But in particular, it's one that can go back and forth, and either side of that reaction is a different color. That one's kind of fun. So you can kind of show people like, hey, if I heat it up, it kind of favors this side and it makes more of this kind of purple thing. Whereas if I cool it down, it favors this side and it makes more of this blue thing or whatever. So it's like you're not actually changing any of the ingredients of the experiment, but you're just changing the conditions that the vessel is sitting in, and that will adjust how much of each substance you have. Like those ones I find really cool. But yeah, you have things like the elephant toothpaste and that kind of stuff as well, which always kind of like looks really cool, and like, oh yeah, like the iodine clock and whatever. Like, it's cool, right? I love those. Yeah, the Le Chatelier's principle experiments are always just great, especially the things that like you could actually get them to see the results of the change. That's one of the things I really loved about chemistry, is that like you have these explanations for things at a molecular level, atomic level or whatnot, and then how those get expressed at the kind of physical macro level. So it's like, why is it that when you take a sheet of metal and hit it with a hammer, it makes a dent, but if you take a block of salt and hit it with a hammer, it shatters into 1,000 pieces, kind of a thing. Like being able to explain why things behave the way they do. I always appreciated that about chemistry. But anywho, so this is all I've got for these pens, which means I now need to go and put them in their color families. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is go and get rid of, I'm going to put them in pencil case, get rid of any of the duplicate ones, because I do not want to accidentally swatch things twice. That would be a boo hiss. Yeah, you love to pull out the rainbow shot trick. Yeah. I mean, what? I know it's not a chemistry experiment, but I do remember making rainbow jello shots, which is effectively just like making 6 different jugs of the jelly with the alcohol in it or whatnot, and then pouring out a red layer into all of the shot glasses and then letting it set, and then pouring out an orange layer into all of the shot glasses and letting it set. It looked cool as heck. I stand by my choices, but yeah, it did take a second. So anything that's a duplicate is going in here because I don't want to accidentally swatch it twice. And then we need to sort these into their color families. As we do that, though, we're going to go and steal another question. We've got another one from Instagram, so I'm going to go and find that one if I can, because now the story has disappeared. Oh no, that's what I get for running my mouth for so long. I'm like, I can't remember exactly when I posted it, which can kind of make it a little bit difficult. But Let's see. While I'm trying to find that, we will go and find this one. So, what and how are you setting up Vogel's journals? Are you still using planning with K sticker sets? This time around, I'm not using the planning with K sticker sets. I am using the Oops a Daisy stencil because it just makes life a little bit easier because it is the same size box as he's been using for like all of his weekly layouts and whatnot. But squitch. I haven't been using planning with K. I've just been using like random collections of other ones. So for February, we used the Panda set from the washi tape shop. Super cute. And then for this month, we're using this, this dragon's tape. Yeah, which is also, no, it's not from the washi tape shop. This one's from Journal Say, I believe. But it's got dragons on it, and it looks really cool. So that's the one we're using for March. It is not yet set up. It needs some TLC. Why did you stop teaching? I just got to a point where my content creating was bringing in a similar amount to my teaching, and I was starting to feel like neither space was getting the best of me. So it's like my kids aren't getting the best of me because I'm spending pretty much all of my time outside of teaching doing content making. And then my content was suffering as well because I could like only spend that amount of time doing it, if that kind of makes sense. So it was this kind of point of like, you need to pick one. You need to pick one so that you can still be a functioning human as well, because when you don't have any rest time, funnily enough, that does detrimental things to you as a human. I know, right? I was shocked too. So I decided like teaching is something you can always come back to, is the type of thing like, if we try this content thing and it doesn't work out, like, it's currently working, but if it all blows up in your face tomorrow, you still have the teaching skills. You can just go back to teaching. But to rebuild the momentum for your content creating, that would be like starting again. So let's go and try content creating and see how that goes. And that's where I'm at now, which is like, it's very exciting. At least I think it's very exciting. So anything that's a singular color I don't have duplicates of, I'm going to go put those up the top here. And anything that is duplicated, I will put one up here and put the rest in the pencil case, which is to the side. Yeah. You've been looking every day to see if that dragon tape is back in stock. Yeah, I think that it is sold out now, isn't it? It's a really nice set. It's very pretty, but I'm not too sure how utilizing it in Vogel's journal is going to go, because a lot of the pieces are quite large. It's like I don't want to take up a whole bunch of writing space, but we'll see. So these ones all have just an individual one of those. I think I'll get all of the pink ones out because I know that some of the pinks have duplicates, and it'd be good to make sure that I don't have both. So coral has a duplicate, so that's coral and coral. We have pink Madder Lake, which we have 2 of, so we'll put that one there and this one here. Cinnamon, I feel like I have 2 of cinnamon for some reason, but I might not. That's middle, pink, purple. Anything that's kind of like in the browns and beige kind of color palette, I'll get those ones out now and see if I can find any duplicates there, because I do think I have duplicates in the range of brown pens that I have. It can sometimes be hard to tell, especially when they have different color writing on them. But dark sepia I have 2 of, so that's 1 and 2 over to the side. And then 3. I have 3 of the dark sepia, so I've got plenty of that color. I've got 2 of the nougat, so nougat and nougat. I have 1 of that one, 2 India red, so India red and India red. And it's okay, it's the kind of thing, right? Like, we went through, we swatched them. I have about 15 that I am missing, but I don't necessarily need to get any more of them. I got 2 of the apricot there and there, because it's like I'm not really using these pens all that much anyways, but my completionist mindset is like, you must get them at the 15, you have to get it, otherwise your collection is incomplete and your pen set is inferior or something like that. I'm like, calm down, Inner Jess, it's gonna be okay. Raw umber, walnut brown, sanguine. Sanguine. I think that all of these ones are individuals, so we can put those over there. Love. Now, I know that there are a couple of greens that I had 2 of, but I might have already put their buddies in the pencil case. You know, so much for doing this in a nice structured way. Ridiculous. Let's see. I'm tempted to write an explanation of my plan for getting into journaling and post it to Discord to try and discuss. Would that be too silly or out of place? You can post that in there. I don't mind. I think that it's nice to hear about people's reasonings behind journaling and what they want to get out of it and such. Mainly because if you identify the purpose, then you can proceed with more intention. That is at least how I find it. Like if, for instance, we go back to that idea of the travel journal, if you have the purpose for the travel journal sorted, like you know what it is you want to get out of keeping the travel journal, then the layouts that you put into the travel journal can be more targeted towards fulfilling that purpose. That kind of makes sense. We'll put those over there. These are 3 yellows that are all unique to each other. Put those over there. These 2 oranges are different oranges. Yep, you're fine. I have 2 of the lilacs. So 1 lilac can go in there, the other one can go over here. And then in terms of the grey pens, they all look the same to me. They're not all the same though. That's a cold dark. That is a cold dark. Yeah, these ones are all called like cold grey 1, cold grey 3. It's like super helpful. They actually do have names though. Light indigo is unique. We have cold grey. This one is cold grey 3, cold grey 4, cold grey 1. And that's warm grey, warm, cold grey 1. Okay, that's good. Those are our cold greys. And you are warm grey 3, warm grey 3. And then warm grey 4, warm grey 4. And then warm grey 1 and warm grey 5. Yeah, there we go. Bring all my pens back. I think that by having them have numbers, I'm just going to write the number out when it comes to doing the by color swatches, because rewriting the names, I'm just like, not super necessary. So it'll kind of match over here a little bit better. What I have tried to do, which I don't know how super invisible, there we go. I write a little letter code so that I know what each pen is. TD stands for Tombow Dual Brush Marker. ST stands for Staedtler Tri-Plus Fine Liner. And SF stands for Jess had a conniption and decided to make terrible choices, because those are supposed to be the Crayola Super Tips. Where is the F? Why? They are not that fine of a pen. It does not make any sense. So I might need to go and put a sticker over those, because every time I look at it, I'm like, what the heck is that? What is that, a Staedtler fine liner? But no, because the ST would be the Staedtler Tri-Plus Fine Liner. Ridiculous. I made a choice. It was a bad idea. But you're off to bed. Thank you for being here while you could. And I'm glad that you could sit and hang out with us for a while. So what we're going to do here is we are going to... I don't know. I kind of want to put them in the color order that they're in the book. Yeah. There we go. You mean your process more than your purpose, but mainly asking because it might be long and certainly is too many characters for this chat. Yo, you can probably put that in the Discord. I'm not very good at checking the Discord while I'm streaming if it's something that you specifically want me to check. But we're going to put this here as a little reference for myself. I mean, you can't quite see the top of it, but you can kind of see the general gist of what we're doing here. So anything grey goes at the start. So all of the grey ones, over your indigo, your blue. Grey goes at the start, put those over there. Ivory is more of a yellow, all the browns go at the end. Blues, we're just sorting them into kind of like general families of color right now. And goes over here. I'm assuming that ivory will go somewhere in here. And then greens, pinks. The pinks are hard because they're kind of split into 2 different sections. They're here and there. But it's cool. It's fine. Yeah, so pale pink goes with the stuff over here. Warm grey goes over here as well. Warm greys go over there. Black goes over there. Oranges go over here somewhere-ish. You are a grey. You are a grey. Green, blue-green, red-ish. Red-ish. They definitely need a reorder. Apologies. Oh my gosh. I feel like I should almost... Like, part of me wants to leave a spot for the colors that I haven't got yet, so that then if and or when I get them, I could color them in. But then part of me is like, that is literally just encouraging you to buy more things. But at the same time, do I care? I don't know. It's too hard. It's too hard. There we go. Put those in here. Purple goes over here. Brown, warm brown. Wait, walnut brown? Raw umber actually goes over here. That's why I'm confused, because I'm like, there are only 4 brown pens, but raw umber is technically like a gold brown kind of a color. So yeah, putting it in a spot that kind of makes sense. But let's see. Need to then put them in the actual order that they're supposed to be in. All right. First of all, drink break. Tink. Excellent work. Make sure I'm up to date on my questions, or at least as much as I can be based on the ones that I've managed to nab and pull out of the lineup. As said, again, if you have a question and I haven't gotten to it, or like I haven't seen it, just chuck it down again and write an all caps question, and I'll be much more likely to see it. Question: what sticker paper do you use? I use different sticker paper depending on what I'm doing. So I typically will use the Avery sticker paper for anything that I don't want to be see-through. So for instance, for Vogel's journal currently, I'm just using these ones. Nice and easy Avery sticker labels. Those ones work quite well for anything that's, needs to have some opacity, or I don't mind if it has opacity. I do typically use washi sticker paper for the headers in my journal, but the washi sticker paper I most recently got is more like a kind of slippery vellum, and everything smudges. Which is unfortunate, because I bought quite a few sheets of it. I think I bought like 3 packs, and I don't think I'm going to use it, which is quite frustrating. It's one of those things, like, I could use it and just suffer through it and such, but then I would just be like annoyed at my journal. So I think I might just get some new ones. I know that Monica uses the transparent Avery labels for her journal, so I think that I'm probably going to try those out. Alrighty, how come you don't post Vogel's bullet journal anymore? Mainly because it has the same setup each month, so it kind of gets a bit repetitive. It's just like a different decorative style, and oftentimes I don't get it set up before the month anyway. So for instance, like today, you saw all of the stickers that I have here sitting for Vogel's journal. Like, I've stuck in the first 2 days kind of a thing, so that he would have some writing space for today, and I haven't finished the rest of it. But yeah, it is mainly that repetition thing, because I want to be bringing, given that I only have so many videos in a month, like in theory, I would like to make it so they're varied, diverse, worth your time, effort, intentions, all of those kind of things. And if I'm showing the same thing every single time, it starts to feel a little bit stale. Yeah. At least for me. Let's see. Do you think you'll have a little meetup and go wild? Yeah. I probably definitely will. I like to try and make sure that people who, even if you're not going to the conference specifically, you have an opportunity to come and meet up and say hi, because I think that's a little bit fun. So I will be planning to have one. I just don't know when it's gonna happen. Mainly because I haven't started looking at any kind of like locations around the conference space that would be suitable, and I haven't really thought about a time for it. The last time we had one, we had it on the Thursday afternoon, because Thursday is like registration day. It's effectively like you check in and then you can go to the little planner shops kind of thing, which I don't typically buy anything, so it's not really a huge part of my experience. So I was like, oh yeah, well, I can use that time to go and meet up with other people in our community and go say hi, which can be quite nice. But I haven't gone to look at anything in and around the area just yet. So haven't organized it, but it will happen. Yeah, remember to check your certificate paper that works with your printer. Yes, very much that. My one is the one that I bought was like off AliExpress kind of a thing, because that's where my previous set came from, and it was the same person, but I think they've just changed what they're using, which means that it didn't really work, which was a bit of a bummer, a bit sad. Let's see. So what advice do you think a new YouTuber / video person needs to hear? I mean, I know that, you know, going with that idea of just start. Ugh, awful advice, gross. Vogel's laughing at me. Yeah, I know. The just do it advice oftentimes I feel like is very well-meaning, but it's not helpful. It's not helpful advice. So I think that new advice that a YouTuber video person needs to hear is that, like, anything that you film, you don't have to post. Like, you could film something and just decide, like, actually this is crap, I don't want to post it. To the extent where I find that a lot of people who start, they feel like everything has to be perfect in one take. Everything has to be done perfectly the first time around, type of a thing. But you're not, you know, depending on the style of video you're doing, you do not have to post anything's first take. You also don't have to post the second or third. And oftentimes, even nowadays, I will have a particular way that I want to say something, and I will re-record myself saying it until I get it right. Which used to take me a lot longer than it currently does. Like, it used to take me a lot longer to find my wording, which, you know, growth, right? We do learn a lot in this profession, in any profession, if you're willing to be a learner and whatnot. But I think that knowing that it doesn't have to be perfect, and knowing that even if you do stuff up or whatnot, like, you know, your first videos you make, they're not going to be amazing, and that's okay. I think there's actually a lot of flexibility in that. If you take that mindset of, like, whatever I post first doesn't have to be perfect, but whatever I post first doesn't actually have to be the first take either. It's like, you can put forward the thing that you are most comfortable with sharing. You can put forward a video that you feel good about sharing and you feel like good about the effort you put into it. But you also can be aware that, like, just because right now you're happy with it doesn't mean that it has to be like the most polished and perfect and pristine version of whatever it is that you're going to be able to make eventually, right? If we go back to my first videos, for instance, and I still do it on live streams because I can't really avoid it, but you know the noise that sometimes happen, you know, it's mouth noises. It's something that happens from talking, you know, and in real life that typically happens. I make sure to remove all of those from my video if I have any kind of noises, because I'm like, you don't want to listen to a little cow chewing, because I don't like them to be in my videos. But when I first started, I either wasn't aware that I could take them out, even though it's like, come on, Jess, you know, you can just, like, take the piece of footage and just trim that out, and that's fine. I just didn't go to the time to do that, I suppose, or I didn't even think about the thing. So I'm going back and watching some of those videos, I'm like, oh dear, Jessica, that was a choice. But at least I started. And now, as we're like 1,000 videos in or whatnot, obviously things have changed. My process for filming has changed. My process for editing has changed a lot. As I've learned new skills and I've kind of, like, developed how I like to do things. You know, you're not going to stay in the exact same spot the whole time. If you keep with it, you'll find a style that works really well for you and something that can, you know, makes your heart happy, type of a deal. So I guess that would be the kind of advice that I think that people who are just starting should probably know, or don't necessarily often get shared, is this idea that just because you record something doesn't mean you have to post it. Like, you know, which gives you that flexibility to re-record things or whatnot. And just because you record something, you know, for instance, with voiceover or you know, in real time, right? So if we were doing this as a recorded video and I'm going through and I'm watching the pans and stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, this one's called ivory, and then I kind of get to the editing and I'm like, Jessica, what the heck is an ivory? You can just mute that portion and re-record telling people what the color name is. Like, yeah, sure, it takes some fiddling around, but you can do it. Nothing is finished until you actually post it, and even after you post it, you can always take it down. So, like, you know, there's a lot of opportunities to stuff things up and be a learner. Being a learner is good. So let's see. Next question. And this isn't a question, it's just a statement. I have like 7 film videos, but I haven't posted any of them. Exactly. And every so often I start filming a video and I get like a decent chunk of the way through it and just go, yeah, nah, like it's not going to happen. I've done that twice this year already. I started filming a week in my journal video because I was going to do it for the very first week of the year. I'm like, yeah, we're going to have a week in my journals, whatnot. I filmed like 2.5 hours of footage and then abandoned it. Like, because I was just like, you know what, I'm not feeling it. I don't care. I don't want to film this week. I did it the next week. The next week I started again and did it in a slightly different style and felt way better about it. But yeah, it doesn't have to be posted. And it can feel a little bit sad, you know, when you go to the time, effort, energy to film something and you don't end up posting it. But if we view that as a way of like, I learned something from this experience, then it wasn't wasted. You know, I learned that that style isn't for me. I learned that I need to, you know, do this type of thing to prepare for that kind of video before I start filming or like anything like that. That is going to be beneficial. At least then we got something out of it, even if it wasn't necessarily the thing we wanted to get out of it. This one is sanguine, 188. And then after that, we have Indian red, which means you are in the wrong place. You are coral. You come after deep scarlet. Very cute. So, question, what editing software do you use? I use Filmora mainly because, like, anytime I want to make a purchase, this is effectively how it happens. 1, I think of the thing I want to buy. 2, I go to Google. 3, I type in best insert item here. 4, I purchase the first thing recommended. So that's how I bought my headphones. That's how I bought pretty much my computer monitors. That's how I bought my software. And I know that the first thing that comes up is usually an ad, but I'm like, stuff it. If they're making enough money to pay for an ad, I'm sure that they're fine. Would I recommend my editing software? No. I mean, like, it's not bad, but I think that you could probably find better. I think that DaVinci Resolve is a free editing software. So if you're just getting started and you're not like me, who's like, I'm not going to do this unless I drop money into the thing, because that's kind of something that I do. If you want something free to just test and trial around with, DaVinci Resolve can be one that you try. And I think it's an online one. I'm not too sure. I haven't used it, but that could be something. Yeah. So there we go. Yes, you can edit a little bit more without after posting. Like, for instance, there are some previous videos that I have where the intro was so bloody long. I'm like, no, people didn't come here to watch me run my mouth, except for maybe this video because we've been here for 2 hours. If you're still with me, thank you so much. Make sure that you like the video. Please subscribe. All of the good things. My God's laughing at me again. But because that was kind of like an informational video, one that was more like either instructional or tutorial based or something like that, and the video didn't start until like a minute and a half in, I'm like, all of that minute and a half is just an opportunity to lose your audience. You know, people don't want to stick around for that. They came for something in particular. So for those ones, I kind of would go back and just like cut the first part of the video off because it didn't change anything about the video by not having it there. One thing you can't do is edit live streams after the fact if you want to keep the live chat afterwards. So for instance, the chat panel that we have down the side of this video, if I went in and edited anything about this video, like for instance, cut out that part at the start where we have the countdown timer to like lead us in, if I went and cut that part out, we would lose the entire chat replay. And that would be a bummer because I love the chat replay because that's, you know, provides context to what I'm talking about a lot of the time. What is the significance of the JashiiCorrin name? That's my name. That's my name. If we go and get a piece of paper out, we'll show you what I mean by that. Vogel's just laughing at me today. What a dick. Thank you for thinking I'm funny, but also stop bullying me. This is where I was figuring out my pen swatches. So my name is JashiiCorrin. If I can spell my own name, Siachi. Not that that matters, but that's my name. I don't include that, obviously. So Corrin is just Corrin. That one's nice and easy. Jessica, I used to go by Jessie. That was how I would be referred to by my friends. And me and all my friends did Japanese. So that became Jashi. But my friends can't spell, so they wrote it as Jashi. So I'm JashiiCorrin. That's where my name came from. But then, like, you know, anytime you kind of like stuff up a word in front of your friends and then it sticks forever, like the fact that this one time Vogel told me that he read the word facade as facade, so now we like don't let him get over that fact, even though it's been approximately 15 years. So now I go by Jashi because my friend misspelt my name one time. Like, one time. I'm glad that people recommend DaVinci Resolve because yeah, I haven't used it myself. Is Vogel just hanging out in your room? No. We have offices that are right next to each other and the doors are both open so that we can both have the cooler on. So he can just hear me running my mouth and laugh at me. So rude to me. So rude to me. But can you edit the chat replay itself afterwards, right? I think that you can, like, I could go through and like remove messages, and if I remove a message, then it's gone, kind of a thing. But I don't typically go through and edit the chat replay. The only kind of chat replay editing that I will ever do is at the time of people sending messages. Like if somebody sent through something spammy, I would want that gone as soon as possible. But I don't often go back through and check them. Okay, ice blue, sky blue, cobalt blue, starts with an I, then dark indigo, purple violet, then lilac, pink madder lake, middle pink purple, just to make sure we have everything in the right order, and then the kaput, okay, that one, and then dark sepia, and then warm brown, walnut brown, and then nougat. So that one's looking all good. Good. And we get to crimson, and by that I mean cinnamon, and I can totally read, don't worry. Cinnamon, orange glaze, nope, I have stuffed that up, that's terracotta. Orange glaze, terracotta, sanguine, Indian red, deep scarlet red, which is definitely not deep enough to be a deep scarlet, but it's fine. Coral, beige red, apricot, pale pink. Then we get into the grey rainbow. Get out. Just be very careful. I don't want to misorder my pens, so I can make sure that these guys are all in order as well. Yeah. One of her jobs was someone called my sister Mug. Yeah. Yeah, well, we have like Rachel, yeah, my bestie Rachel. Her family every so often would call her Rach, and she doesn't like it. So one time her brother called her Rach, and she's like, "How would you like it if I just cut off the last two letters of your name, Jam?" Because his name is James, and now we all call him Jam. Like we have called him Jam for 15 years. Yeah, it has been many moons that he has been referred to as Jam because of that. So this is a cold. That is a cold. That is a cold. That is a black. That is a warm. That is a warm. That is a cold. Cold ivy. Cold ivy. Ivy. Yep. And then that one should go there. This one is warm. Warm V. Warm ivy. Warm 3. Warm 1. Excellent. 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 So, in terms of putting these into the by color swatches, I just want to make sure that I don't miss any of them, because I think I would like to have them in there, because I'll probably buy them at some stage because of the way I am. It's like you've put them in here, so you're probably going to get them. So you might as well put them into the other one as well. How's the wedding planning going? I am still waiting for my tape to arrive from the washi tape shop so that I can continue my wedding planner, like my journal that I'm doing for my wedding planner, which is this one here. So that then I can go and start decorating some of the pages, because this is where my index is going to go, but I want to decorate the page. And this is where my checklist of things is, which I know you can't read any of these, but that is my checklist of tasks. There are definitely some tasks that need to be done. We went ring shopping the other day because we thought that would be a nice, easy one to cross off. I have ordered my wedding ring. Vogel has, I think, at least decided what he wants for a wedding ring, but yeah. Do the Faber-Castell pens smudge over black? I found that this one smudged slightly, the cadmium yellow. Yellow's a weird color because I swear that the yellow pens are always the smudgy ones. So I have found like minimal smudging, but I also haven't intentionally tried to color over it. So I'm not too sure. You heard Ivy and it was like, Ivy? Why is that in the gray? I know, right? No, like the Roman numerals IV. So in terms of the grays, they all sit comfortably in their space. Warm grey almost looks like a brown, I swear. I'm gonna put this on another piece of paper. I feel like I need a white piece of paper to be able to do this though. What is this? Okay, that's white. No, I guess it is grey, but I know that you guys can't really tell because it's very, very bright. But it looks a little brown. I mean, you, again, can barely see it. Let's see if we can just zoom this in a way that... I don't know. It's grey enough. It's fine. So we'll come back out again. Yeah, we'll go to about there. That looks right. That feels right. So all of the greys can stay in their little order. We will do those ones. We'll just push them off to the side so they're over here. And then the next section are not quite pinks. Like pale pink is pink. Apricot is not a pink. Apricot is more of like an orange kind of color. So I'm going to put you with orange. Beige red is more of a pink. Coral is a pink. And I would even go as far to say the deep scarlet red is even a pink. Like again, you can't see it. That doesn't look red to me. That reads pink to me. So, let's see. Your wedding planning is being inhibited by a lack of washi tape. It is. It is. I mean, I am still getting things done. I just, I can't do a lot in my journal for it, which makes me sad because I want my tape first to make sure I don't write things in the places where I want my tape to go. I mean, it is supposed to, Tink, arrive today, so it'll be here soon. Yeah. So, do you have any color you absolutely hate and don't want in your journal? For you, it's yellow and gold. It's this odd thing because, like, yellow is not a color that I would typically consider as like any kind of favorite or I would gravitate towards or anything like that. But it is the color that I seem to utilize the most anytime I want to do like a minimal theme with a pop of color. Strangely, I think it was like August 2022 or something like that. I was trying to follow the original bullet journal method, and I just used yellow and black because that was what was in the bullet journal method book. Yeah, I don't know. The colors that I really don't like is probably anything in the kind of like brown green kind of color range. Which it really depends. But a brown green by itself is not usually what I gravitate towards. Like this chromium green is actually kind of like okay, but if we flip back to like the Tombos maybe because at least I'm familiar with those, like that one is not really my favorite. I probably wouldn't use that by itself. Same idea with like 07 because it's not gold enough. It's like a kind of dark yellow brown, but so those ones maybe not so much. But oftentimes I am not restricted so much by color, but more so like a color combination. I think that most of the time, like I can get away with a blech kind of color if it is paired nicely with something else, which can happen. It's just not commonly done. Like it's not commonly done in a nice way. So I also, like I don't use neon all that often, but that being said, I literally just showed you Olaf's summer holiday and that was kind of verging on neon. So like shrug. I have a tendency to like go more towards certain palettes rather than away from other palettes, if that kind of makes sense. But yeah, see, olive is hard because I swear to the good Lord, what even is olive? There are so many variations of olive that I don't even know what olive looks like anymore. Because some olives, quote quote olives, are actually quite nice, and then other olives you're just like, no, this is hideous, this disgust. So let's see. We decided that the apricot, this guy, was more of a yellow-orange kind of color. Sanguine, terracotta, orange glaze, and cinnamon. Sanguine. See, Indian red doesn't look red to me. It looks more like brown, which means that I don't really have any reds from this pen set, which is fun. And cinnamon, that one's there. Then this one can be... Even beige red, I would be almost inclined to say is an orange. So I'll put that. I'm going to get my swatch paper back out and see what I think about it. Like when it's by itself, it's kind of looking a little orange. It's giving orange. I also tend to swatch it out on a little piece of paper and then go back to the swatches by color, because oftentimes it's a lot easier to tell if something fits with certain palettes if you go and compare it to that palette. So like this one reads more orange to me than it does pink. So I will probably put it in the orange section. So that's beige red and the apricot. So those ones are all going to be oranges. They can come out, shapoink, and go off and sit in orangedom, which I'm just going to put down over here. The orange kingdom, orangedom. Let's see, pale pink is still a pink. You're fine. Coral is still a pink. You're fine. Deep scarlet red is just not red. I'll put it on my little paper and we'll go compare it. We'll go and compare it to make sure that I'm not talking schmack. Because maybe it is red enough, but at least from where I'm sitting, it looks pretty pink. That's the hard part about red, is that oftentimes you find that there are a lot less reds in a set because I guess it kind of matches Ohuhu 4. Like the mild liner red. Fine. We'll let you sit in red, but I'm not happy about it. Where are we? There we go. But then also, like, for instance, the pale germanium lake, pink carmine, and scarlet red, I don't know how red those are. And I kind of think that they're probably pink. So it's like, well, do I even want to bother including the colors that I don't have? I feel like you're just encouraging the use of money for things that you don't need. Indian red, I also still consider to be brown. So I'm probably going to put that in the brown section. But we'll, again, swatch. You love the Ecoline brush pens lately because it's so hard to find good color pastel line separator pens. I think that the Ecoline pens are definitely something I'd be interested in. I don't necessarily think I'll be getting any. Yeah, that reads brown to me. I'm going to put raw umber on here as well to see if I want to put that in the yellows or if I want to put that in the brown. I think I probably do want to put it in the yellow. It's golden enough that it kind of fits in the yellow. Yeah, scarlet is one of those pigments that leans way more pink. Yeah, see, this is the hard thing, eh? It's like sometimes scarlet leans pink and sometimes scarlet leans orange, depending on what brand you're looking at. And I'm just like, guys, just pick a lane. Because, like, even this looks kind of pinkish anywho. So I'm like, I feel like I could even get away with putting it in pink as well. That's the nice part about doing it by color is, like, technically speaking, you can put it in multiple spaces. Yeah, that's definitely in the brown space. So you can go over here. We'll put you there. All of those guys can come out. We're going to put you above the white pen. I'm trying to make sure that I don't just put them back in color order. Otherwise, I will get confused and be like, oh, were you supposed to be in the orange or were you supposed to be in the insert another color here? And then get confused with myself. So we were also comparing the yellow. The yellow is like kind of brownish, but I think it probably would fit better in the yellow. As part of this process, like, trying to figure out which swatch I put it in, I consider it to be very much like, where would I think to look for this color? So if I was trying to find this as a color match, would I be more inclined to turn to the yellow section or would I be more inclined to turn to the brown section? Or like, depending on what pen I'm looking at, whichever sections are relevant. These ones are all yellow. So we can take those and put them up here. That looks good. These ones we decided were pink and or possibly red. Lilac is one of those like purple pinks, which is fun. Purple pink. So we'll go and have a look and see whether we want to put it in purple, whether we want to put it in pink, or whether we want to put it in both. You live 30 miles from Indianapolis. Go Wild is not on your budget, but you would love a meetup. Yeah, no, for sure. We will be doing one, as mentioned. We will definitely be doing one. It's just the when and the where and logisticals and all that kind of thing. Yeah, I think you're more purple leaning. You can sit in the purple because I think that you've got enough blue tinge to you that it makes sense. So you are purple, which means you are pink, which means I'll put it that way. The blues and teals should be fairly easy to pick out.
because I'm pretty sure there's only one that's genuinely like a teal color. So like, yeah, you're teal and the rest of you are your other colors. Cute. We'll start with the teal because that's nice and easy. So this is 156. It says it on the pen. I don't actually need to read it off the swatch chart for the whole set. Teal is in here. And teal is my smallest collection because it is pretty particular. Like as soon as you start leaning too blue or too green, it goes in the blue or the green swatch. So this one we said was, okay, the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pens. Would that be FC for Faber-Castell or FP for Faber-Castell Pitt? I'm sure I've written this down somewhere. So let's go have a snoop. It's certainly not SF. Oh my gosh. I'm still very frustrated at myself for doing that. I've just got these all in my scribble book. So I just need to go find the right page because I don't necessarily keep this in a super orderly manner. Flip, 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 flip. Okay. I've kind of got them written down here. So TD was for Tombow dual brush markers. TF was for Tombow Fudenosuke. CS was for the Crayola Super. AC was for Ultranolive Calligraph. ST for the Statler. KM for the Caran markers. ML for mild liners. And I didn't specify for the Faber-Castell. So unless I chose them in the last journal, because I also wrote a list in the last journal. Haha. Here was my last list. So, Papermate Flares, Artex. I don't think I wrote them down on here either. Okay, FP. Yep, Faber-Castell. There we go. FP. Bonnie knows. Bonnie has the memory that I do not have. FP. Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen. So I have intentionally been trying to make it so that everything is a two-letter code to make myself easier, to make life easier, to make me easier. Yeah, that's how this works. Have you ever thought about having a marker wall like your journals? If so, would you sort them by 1, color and brand, 2, brand alone, or 3, color alone? Great question. I'm gonna take you a picture. So this is Poink. This is my picture. This is what I currently have. We'll see if I can get it to play the game. It's not perfect, but this is my current wall of markers. So they're kind of organized by color, but then also by marker. So like we have a drawer of, that's me taking a picture of my stuff so that I knew what I was doing. So this one is my Crayola Super Tips. This one is my mild liner drawers. We obviously have the Tombows. And then we have these ones which are like by color. So they're just like eclectic collections of pens. This whole thing needs a bit of a resort because I don't really like the way some of these be looking, but it does help me out a little bit. I find that having certain sets of pens by the pen collection is just easier. So I was thinking like, the mild liners, having all those together makes sense in my mind. Having the Crayola Super Tips together makes sense in my mind. Tombows in particular, like they've got their own carry case and whatnot. Mainly because when I go looking for a pen, it's like, am I looking for the color or am I looking for the pen type? So it's mainly about how I would go to look for them. So it's kind of a mixture of both, just depending on what makes sense. Like for instance, for these ones, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to displaying them because like they do have a little color on the cap, which is quite cute. I just haven't done that yet. But this is a good question. Will you create a tip-in legend for the codes? I won't necessarily do it today, but I will definitely be doing it at some point because I constantly find myself being like, oh, what does that mean? Especially when you give it a code that doesn't make any sense. Can you tell I'm really happy about that choice? I feel very, very good about my decision there. She lied. I'm very disappointed. It frustrates me greatly. It's not fixable. Like I can fix it. It's fine. But it's just more of an annoyance, like to actually have to fix it. I'm just going to put all these colors over here so that then they're out of the way so that then we can zoom in just a little bit so that we can do these ones. Yeah, I wondered how. I don't even know why SF would have been the thing that I thought of because there's no F in Crayola Super Tips. So, yeah, sure, I can redo the code, but it's like I want to be able to effectively come to this layout and kind of just intuitively know what it was I was talking about. So it's like when I say OH, I'm like, oh hoo hoo, nice and easy. ML, mild liner. TD, Tombow dual brush marker. Like that one's easy. If I kept it with SF, every single time I come to look at it, I will have to flip the thing out because I'll be like, what the heck does that mean? This guy, FP. Do I use this pen? I don't think I use this pen. I'm going to use this pen. FP. Okay, nothing broke. We're good. What number are you, Brendo? And I'm also going to make sure that I put these into the pencil case as I go. Yeah, super fabulous, super tips. Because I'm like, maybe I thought it was like ST, and then I was like, oh, you can't have ST because it's the Statler Triplus. But I'm like, why didn't you put the Crayola brand? I don't know. These are questions that are never going to get answered. So we'll put the pencil case out of the way so that we don't have a giant shadow. So this one was 156. Right. 156. And we're only going to do the ones that I actually own. Now the question is that pen way thicker than that one? The answer is yes, which means I didn't use this. Probably. I probably used the Zebra Sarasa Mark-On to write these things in, because I would like to keep it fairly consistent with the pens that I'm using. So, blue, blah. We're going to do it in this order. The nice part is that the boxes for these are way smaller, so coloring them in is not very time consuming. Having just gone over another black line here, I reckon that these pens do not play nicely with going over black marker. Just related to the question that we had before. Yeah. So color those ones in. Yeah, because I started doing the Crayola Super Tips while I was doing something else, I think. I can't actually remember. Because I think I was doing that one. I feel like I was doing it on my lonesome. I don't think I was doing it while I was with other people, but I do not recall. Regardless, past just made choices. So what I'll probably end up doing is just getting a strip of white sticker label paper and sticking it over that, because the numbers are all right. It's just the code. So I'll just go ting, 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 or just like one long strip, depending on if I can get it to line up nicely, because they're not all perfectly in order, like perfectly aligned. But so these ones were all FPs, because Faber-Castell. Wow, Faber-Castell. The Super Tips like Tombows. Not so much, like in terms of the brush nib versus like the kind of like chisel-esque kind of tip. It's a different type of tip. In terms of the color range, they're not too bad. Like if we go and have a little snoop, like so this is the Crayola Super Tip range, and then this is the Tombow Dual Brush range. So I think that they both offer a good amount of colors, but the actual structure of the pen is different. Yeah. Let's see. Don't know if it was already asked, but which pens do you tend to lean towards in your Bujo? For writing, it's this guy, the Mark-On. But for coloring, it's pretty much always the Tombows. Any second line highlights, I lean towards Tombows more than anything else. And I think that, one, I've had them the longest, so I'm the most familiar with them. And two, because of that familiarity, I know the color range really well. Like, if you tell me a certain number of a Tombow, oftentimes I will pretty easily be able to pick up, like in my mind hole, what that pen color is without having to go and look it up. For some of them, like if you said like, I don't know, 195, I know 195. If you said 553 versus 533, I know that they're both very similar, but I don't necessarily know exactly which one is which. Yeah. So we've got 154. Apologies if you're doing anything that requires you to count right now, because I'm saying a bunch of numbers. 148. 146. We have 143. We have 247. So you can kind of see where, or rather why I didn't want to put these in number order, because we have this like giant jump of numbers, and then 157. It's like one of those blues is just off by itself somewhere. Do you think the quality of them, what do you think the quality is compared to the Tombos? I find Tombos are better quality. Tombos are also a better color match to their caps. Tombos are also a lot more pricey compared to the Crayola Super Tips. The Crayola Super Tips are very much like a budget-friendly pen, but just because they're budget-friendly doesn't mean they're bad. I also find that with the Crayola Super Tips that I have, at least, the ink dump that you get at the end of a stroke is worse than the ink dump that you get at the end of a stroke with a Tombow pen. That's what I have found, at least with my ones. Tink. Mm-mm-mm. Do you want to plan to challenge yourself in the future to try new pens? I'm trying to find a little bit more like, what's the word for it? It's not like necessarily like plan a piece or anything like that, but just be content with the materials I have, because like I do enjoy trying new pens. I think that it can be a bit of fun, but at the same time, I don't need any new pens. I've got enough colors of the stuff that I've got enough colors in the stuff that I already have. Yeah. And it's like, would I be trying, what would be the purpose is where my mind goes to. Like, am I getting these new pens because I feel like I'm filling a particular hole that I have in my collection? So for instance, like, let's just say that I didn't have any chisel tip pens, which is not the case, but let's just say that I don't have any of those. Then it's like, okay, sure, I will go and get out some chisel tip pens because a chisel tip is something in particular I feel like I'll use. I don't have anything that fits that role in my collection, so going and getting them makes sense. Another need could be like if I got really into doing pen reviews, which I don't currently do on the channel, then maybe I would need to acquire new pens so that I could test them out and give ideas or feedback or whatnot. Is that first green you put down a bit minty, or is it just your screen? It is kind of minty. I think that it is kind of a minty-ish color, but if you compare it to the Ohuhu 114, it is more green leaning than it is blue leaning. Yeah, hopefully that helps. But put those ones down here. So yeah, I probably am not going to be aiming to get new pens, but if new pens come into my collection, it's probably because they were gifted to me, or I had like a specific need that needed to be filled, or maybe that need was like I wanted to test them out for the channel and give like feedback about them to the community or whatnot. Like for instance, I was tempted to recently pick up a pen pack that was the budget-friendly dot markers. Not the Ohuhus, but not the clean color. They look like clean colors, but they're not actually clean colors. In the idea of, you know, if I try these out, then I can say whether this budget-friendly alternative is actually something that people might want to get. Didn't end up getting them though, but that was a thought that I had. But it's also like, do I actually want to make that video? Like, I don't really enjoy doing review videos all that often anyways. I don't mind giving my opinion about things. You know, if people ask point blank, like, hey, what do you think about insert notebook type here or whatever, but being required to go in and do like the structured review type thing, it's not necessarily like super time consuming, but it's just not fun to make. I just get bored. But yeah, the question that Michelle already answered for you, yeah, that one is the Artex paint markers. I have quite enjoyed them because you don't need to shake them, and they've got a nice fat brush tip, and you don't need to clean them, and I appreciate that, because when your pens require a whole bunch of maintenance, I'm just like, nah, bro, it's not for me. Alrighty, put those ones in there, looking so super cute. Oh my gosh, beautiful, love. Flipping all the way back so that we can do pinks and purples. I only actually have 2 purples currently, so that's kind of nice and easy. So that one is the lilac, which we can put here. So that one is 239. FP 239, and then we have FP Faber Castell Pit Artist Pen, which I'm even already thinking like, ooh, FP, maybe that wasn't the right choice. But this one is 136. 136. There we go. Color that one in. What a beautiful purple. Excellent. The fact that we only have 2 purples, at least in my collection, I'm like, that's weak. That is weak. I think this is the thing. If I'm going to be bringing new pens into my collection, it's probably to complete a set. It's probably to round out the stuff that I already have, because that is the way that I am. Let's see. So the next one, flipping over, pink. I've only got 2 spaces left, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pens. So we're gonna need to draw some lines, which means I need my Micron, because that is the pen that I use for the outside edges, because it's supposedly waterproof and archival and all of the good things. And I don't want to have it smudge when I color over the top of things with my, pens that I'm swatching. Not that that seems to matter for some of them. Some of them are just like, I'm a smudge anyway. You're not the boss of me, which is fun, I suppose. It's not that bad. It's really not that bad. So for this one, I just do, I think, 3 columns per. So yeah, 7 over, 7 over. Put that here. And I rule the vertical, but I don't rule the horizontal, because they're only 1 millimeter. I wish. That'd be really easy. They're only 5 millimeters across, or 1 dot grid box. So it's not too much effort to do a straight-ish line for those. It's not the worst. That was a little thin, but it's all good. It's all good. So once I do one side, because I need to have another dot to kind of act as a reference, I will then go and do the ladders, or the rungs of the ladder. That kind of makes sense. And if they do go a little cattywampus, it's not usually the worst thing. It's usually only 1 line. It's only going to be a 1 dot grid box space that's going to be affected by that. Or like maybe, the 2 neighboring boxes, or the 2 boxes that are divided by that line. It's not usually a big enough issue that it's like, oh gosh, I need to throw this journal out and start again. I've made a mess of everything. But it's not necessarily the most of fun if I didn't care as much about the paper that I'm using. Because, part of the reason that I swatch in this notebook is because it is a similar paper to what I use typically in my journals. Like, I typically use Archer and Olive journals. This is an Archer and Olive journal. If I didn't care so much about that, I would literally just go and make stickers of these ladders and print them off and stick them in. That would make my life so much easier, because then I wouldn't have to draw everything. But there we go. We'll put that one in there. Poink. Excellent. Good question. Progress report, team. How are we going? I have notably done this much swatching and then have started on my color swatches, but with the things that you started with, or with the things you moved on to, what are you up to now? Where has your work taken you? Twink, twink, twink. And then I will go in and just finish off the ladder rungs, especially if where I put my ruled line kind of is a little further over than I was initially anticipating. It's not usually the biggest deal, because it's just going to get colored in with a pen and you're barely going to see it. So, tink. Ooh, dinner break. Nice. I have not been having a dinner break because it is only 11:30 for me in the morning. So dinner is a little way off, but we're having sushi for dinner and I'm looking forward to it. It's leftover sushi from yesterday, because we made like a big batch of sushi and then we just leave it in the fridge and have some more the next day. We have 5 of these. So FP times 5. FP. The first one is 129. We have 125. I think the fun part about these ones is that they look kind of like little lipstick swatches. I know that lipstick doesn't just come in pinks, but this is what it reminds me of. 219, 131, and 114. Gorge. Make sure I put the right pen down in the right spot. That would be a little bit upsetting. Just a tad. Again, it's not like we don't have fixes for it. I don't know if I've had to make any mistake fixes on. Yeah, I have this one here, which you might You probably can't tell, but this one has a little piece of sticker label over the top of it because I colored it in with the wrong pen or something similar. I'm very tempted to go and change the one that I had for the Ohuhu markers in the brown because it looks purple and thus it should not be on that swatch. It should be pretty much just in the purple space. See, now as I put the red down here, this does look a lot more red, but I'm not so sad that it's here. But I am going to leave it out because I think it does need to go in the red section as well, because it does look like kind of like the mild liner red. Just comes back to that idea of like, where are you going to look for the color? And I think that for that one in particular, I would probably be inclined to check both. That pink is so not a pink. Some of the pinks, I swear, they're like barely pink. It's much more like a very pale yellow or something, but it's all good. Your sushi restaurant is still on their break. That's so frustrating. My favorite pho restaurant for like, you know, chicken noodle soup pho, they stopped selling pho and their name is FOMO, like PHOMO, like pho. I'm like, you can't not sell pho. That doesn't make any sense. I am all kinds of devastated, to be completely honest. All kinds of devastated. But it's fine. It's fine. Let's see. Oh, I know that this isn't necessarily like related to me, but like, has anybody migrated before, and how long would be a realistic estimate for the time from deciding you need to until you live in the new country? Major goal in your bujo? I guess it depends. For my parents, it was 2 years roughly, but they also needed to like sell up assets in the country they were in. So like, logistically, that needed to happen. I think if you didn't have assets to sell, then it probably wouldn't have taken as long. But so we flip back. We're going to do the yellow section now. That would be these ones here. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. We're going to go in this order. Scroll. Color. There we go. That one. And then the problem with these brush tips is that they're so like new and fresh, and I don't want to like ruin them. Would you say that FOMO was not serving pho and has given you FOMO for pho? Yes, exactly. I have faux show got FOMO for pho, and I'm so sad about it because I really liked their pho because it was like not super aniseedy, which is not a flavor that I particularly enjoy, and a lot of chicken pho still tastes quite aniseedy, and I don't like that. And then they don't do it anymore. All kinds of devastated. As said, all kinds of devastated. But there is technically another pho restaurant near me, but I haven't tried them, and thus I'm like super skeptical. Like, oh, you're just not going to live up to my too high expectations now because I liked the other one more. It's always a bummer when you kind of get attached to something and then it gets taken away. Wah. FP. That was PF, but we can try this again. Now it says PP. That's not better. We're going to fix that. I would like it to look the part. But in terms of fixing mistakes, most favorite way is literally just using sticker paper. Just use a little bit of sticker paper and stick it over the top. I need to make sure that I cut it off in such a way that the sticker paper doesn't fall on the floor. Because that's what just happened to the last one. So we're just going to take the little sticker paper, stick it over the top, in place, poink, and then write FP over the top. Nice and easy. 103, 104, 107, 268, and 180. Excellent. Put those ones in there. It's the ghosts of the PP's past. Literally. Ah, dear. But it's fine. We fixed it. We're okay. It's all good. And it's like just like general phallic things in the journal cannot be trusted. Yeah. That purple though. That purple I cannot. I'm tempted to literally go in and fix it and put Ohuhu 136 there. Even though it would be in the middle of like a little kind of spectrum that I was working on, at least it would not be purple. We're gonna do that. We're gonna fix that. Okay. So I've just been using literally the outside edge of this sticker paper here. So we're gonna stick that over the top of this. What did we say it was? 136. Don't let me forget that number. 136. There we go. That looks great. And then we have to stick it over the top of the actual swatches themselves, which can be a little bit trickier. So we might need to get some surgical precision tools out here, which is just my craft knife. Thank you guys for writing that down for me because my hands are incapacitated. Otherwise preoccupied. They're not actually incapacitated. Like, so then we can stick that over the top of that number 2. So we can write out 136. We wrote that down for me. Appreciation. 136. So we'll just move that up into that space. And then this one can sit in that box and cover over that color. Plonk. Ta-da! It's like it never existed. And then we do the same thing for this one as well. And then I actually have to go find 136 and swatch it out. That will be a future me problem. We'll just put that little piece of sticker paper there. Make sure to put the cap back on your craft knife so that you are safe. That is important. Excellent. Which means we can now swatch out these brown pens and they will actually be brown. And then I put one down and it's like not brown. You're like, no! Like this guy here. He's brownish, but he looks so like red-orange. So red-orange. How did you not cut the paper underneath? It's just about applying the right amount of pressure, which can be sometimes hard to figure out. There is definitely a sweet spot, and it was learned via trial and error, which is super helpful of an answer, but it is effectively what it is. Just like always apply less than you think you need, and then if it doesn't cut through, just go over it again with the same amount of pressure, effectively, just like kind of build it up until you can find that point where you've applied enough pressure to cut through the amount you need to. Because I have definitely cut through my page a couple times, which is not typically what the what the point was. If you're worried about it though, what can be useful to do is put some kind of like cutting mat underneath your page as well. So then at least if you do end up cutting through, at least you're only cutting through one page. But what you could also do if that doesn't work is just lay it down, put a very fine pencil line on, pull it up if your paper permits it, cut it with regular scissors and stick it back down. But I prefer to do the craft knife because I am lazy. I just want it to be done. I want to be done. FP, not PP. Don't be fooled. F, 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 P. And then on the next one, P. And then on the next one, P. Because I'm not going to say it. And the next one, P. No PP. She said it anyways. 192. We have 169, 175, 177, and 178. Gorge. Yay. Oh, so satisfying. I feel like I need to go and find that 136 now, otherwise I will just not do it. You have a floppy page corner in your journal from a hazardous attempt at using your craft knife. Yeah, I find that where mine usually is the most danger zone is anytime I make a Dutch door. So like not this kind of Dutch door because you've just cut away the side of the page. It's not really a problem. But this type where you've cut away the top of a page. And then the page that's attached to is like, and you're like, great, that's not what I wanted. So we're going to go and do the red section because it's only one pen. Which is very convenient because there's just one. So this one is 219. Yeah, you look more at home here, friendo. Red 219. FP 219, not red. Otherwise, I will write red. FP 219. And as said, we were going to go and try and find the brown 136. I'm just going to put that there so that then I know that the one underneath it is dry. Oh, I have to go get the pens. What a struggle. What a hard life. Yeah. Can I actually get it out? Yes. It's very snug. It's very in there. So the nice part about my Ohuhus, at least, is that I have... Okay, I think you've had enough dry time. Go away. Please move. I have at least gone through and ordered them roughly by color. So if I'm looking for brown, I know I'm looking in this kind of general region, which is kind of convenient. What did we say it was? 136? Yes, 136. And it was kind of in the gray region. That's 129, where it is just like guesses. 136. There we go. Second try. Yeah, second try. And then if we... 136. Does it look a little strange here? Sure. But it looks way better than the purple pen did, because the purple pen didn't make any sense. There we go. And then we can put that back in roughly the position it was. Roughly. Get out of the way. Gosh, dang it. There we go. I know that some people don't like the look of these because of the holes thing. But this, I think, is very satisfying to look at the rainbow order of it. It's okay. We'll put them away. We'll put the holes away. And put that one. I have already had to use one of my spare nibs because I don't know if you're going to be able to like tell this, but on the inside of this pen cap, you see how there's that like inner circle or whatnot? I got the very fine point caught on the wrong side of the inner circle, and it split the nib, which I was very upset about. I wasn't so upset that I was like, gonna have a legit cry, but I was definitely not impressed. Do I have the purple on the purples page? Great question. I can't remember the number of it now. So maybe, but also maybe not. Let's go have a cheeky snoop. We'll have a cheeky little look at it. So the purple Ohuhu was probably 126, possibly. I don't even know if it'll belong there. I don't think I put it there, but I've also done the other purples now, and I'm just like, whatever. Is it complete? No. But I don't even know if it belongs in the purples, because it doesn't really look like a purple either. So, like, big shrug. Big shrug. It's still pretty much complete, though, so that's fine. Orange Gladys, not purple. So bad. We'll just leave that. So in terms of the orange selection, we have 6 oranges. Nice. 176, you guys reckon? That was 126. What is 176? I don't have a 176. There's only 160 pens. I guess we mean 126. Yeah. New color palette, just rando colors, ones that just aren't satisfying. They won't stay in their lane. FP. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it needs to come down to there. Just before I get carried away and write too many numbers in, and then I'm like, great. Too many. I'm gonna do them this way. 188, which I'm reading the numbers upside down, which is instantly a great choice. Nope. Yeah, let's flip that around. 186 before I write 189 or something. 86. 113, nice easy one. This one is 18. See, there we go. 189. I knew you existed. I knew you were in there somewhere, friendo. 132 and 116. Gorge. I mean, I think that the 7, the 2 probably looked kind of like a 7 that has a crossbar, so it's like, it's all good. I can understand why that would have been read differently. Also, my handwriting is quite small and not like super, super neat, so it is not unexpected that the number would be read somewhat not correctly sometimes. And here we go. It could also be that I wrote it wrong. There is also that as a genuine possibility that I read it wrong off the pen and wrote it wrong into my notebook. So, creak, creak, creak. Oh. See, orange is a color that I don't typically gravitate towards, or at least I don't think I typically gravitate towards it. But I do quite like the terracotta-esque kind of color that is from the Tombow range, 912. That one I do actually find myself using more often. I thought I had an extra pen for a second. I'm like, oh my gosh, have I written something out wrong? No, we're good. I just can't read. I just can't read. It's fine. The orange page makes you miss Starbursts. Oh, like the chewable candies. They kind of, I can understand the link here. But oranges are done. Nice. Oh my gosh. Tink. And now we're on to the grayscale pens, which I've turned way too far for. So, grayscale is a bit of a bigger range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now we could count it, or we can just use this because it has numbers on the side that tell you where you're going. So 11 will be down to here. So that's F, P. This is actually, like, I am surprised by how much this has actually been utilized by me. It is technically a B5 size ruler, and I don't even use B5s. I love this ruler. This ruler is great. Can you please make a video for the calligraph swatches in future? Yeah, for sure. We possibly won't do it anytime like in the immediate future, but we could probably do one of those as well. I would just want to go through and put them in color order before I start. I almost did it again. I almost wrote the PP. I don't want PP. I don't want the PP. Put that away. Yeah, the B5 ruler is actually super handy. Like, when I got it, I was like, I might sell this because I don't see the point of it. But I use it in pretty much every journal setup I do now. It is great. I don't have it linked in the description box currently, but because I've used it in this video now, I will make sure and go and update that for you. Oh yeah, the sets of pens that we have been swatching today are already in the description box for anybody who's curious. I got these as sets rather than like a full like 60 pen set or anything like that. That's why I have duplicates. If I were to try and acquire the full set, I probably wouldn't do that again. I would probably go and buy them individually, make my life a little easier. 101 220. Good question. Do you know any foreign languages? I know small amounts of some foreign languages, but nothing that comes close to actually being able to say that I know another language. When I was in school, I studied French and Japanese, but the amount to which I learnt, like, it actually stuck in my head hole, not a lot. So, like, you know, Denwa Bango wa? Like, that would be like, what's your phone number? Which is a weird thing to learn how to ask in high school, but it's fine. We've got that. Or like, wakarimasen, I don't understand. Like, I can piece together bits and pieces, but I wouldn't necessarily be assured that I was getting it correct. Like, Eigo ga hanasemasu ka? Like, can you speak English? But I think I've probably used the wrong linking syllable phrase word there. I don't know if it's ga or wa or ha or like, yeah, my familiarity with it is quite limited now. Okay, so 232 because I didn't write that down. 232 and 233. Question. What will you do when they release new sets? Okay, so this is the thing. I think that I'm going to stop buying calligraphs mainly because, one, I don't find myself tending towards using them, because two, they don't release the color sets again. And three, I have so many of them right now that I feel like I have enough colors. Like, yes, when they release the new sets, I'm just like, oh, so pretty. Like, I want those. And I did get the most recent set, but because I don't really use them as much as other pens, and I think it's in part of that is like the scarcity mindset. It's like a when I use this color, it's gone. To which there is like one pen that I'm kind of low key devastated that I have used it up. In fact, I've used it up twice now because I used it up in full once when I was doing a May journal setup a few years ago, and then I've used it a lot since then, and it's now kind of drying out again. But because they don't re-release the colors, it means that I can't get another one, and it's I think it's called Marsh Green or something like that. It's a really nice pale green. I used it for second line highlights. When you use it for second line highlights, you use a heck of a lot of it. But because I used it for that, I now, barely can't use it anymore because it's super dried out. 272, sorry, and 270. But yeah, because it is super dried out now, I can't really use it, but it was my go-to green second line highlight pen because it was pale enough to not look super, super wobbly or anything like that. So that is a bit of a bummer. But then because of that, like, if I'm acquiring these pens and not utilizing them because I'm scared that if I use them, they're going to run out, then should I even be acquiring them to start with? And part of the reason why I do acquire them is because through my work with Archer and Olive, I get a quarterly like discount code type thing. So it means that I can, effectively make one purchase per quarter that has free shipping because shipping to New Zealand is very expensive. It's not cheap. It's not cheap. So I will hold off on purchasing it so that I can make one purchase. And typically speaking, they usually release a set of 10 colors for the calligraphs with each of the seasonal releases. So for instance, this time around, they did the spring release. I purchased the spring set of pens, which means that next time, which will probably be the winter release, they'll, in theory, this is big theories, I don't know if they will, but they'll release a winter set of pens and then I'd get that kind of a thing. But it's like, if I'm not actually using them and I'm not using them because I feel like they're going to run out, then should I bother using my voucher in that way? Like, what if I want something different? What if I want I don't know, a notebook or anything? I don't really need notebooks either. Or, what if I took that discount code or the coupon I have, and instead of getting something for myself, because I do, funnily enough, I have a lot of stuff. If you hadn't noticed, I don't really need more stuff. Like, what if I use that for a giveaway or something, or like as a gift to someone else, kind of a thing. I think it's just like that idea of having a cutoff point can be quite healthy when it comes to collecting pens and such. Because that's what I did with acrylographs. They got to a point where it's just like you are not using these, stop buying them. And it was this completionist mindset that I had. It's like oh, well, no, you've got them all up until this point. Like, what if they release a set and then you don't get it, and then you decide you actually do want to use acrylographs, and now you don't have them. And I'm like, well, but the paint pens, that type of paint pen in particular, it doesn't match my journaling style. I do not like having to do like a whole bunch of like admin work to be able to use my pen. I don't like having to shake it to prime it. I don't like having to press it to prime it. I don't like having to clean the nib after I use it. I want to be able to pick up a pen, use the pen, put the cap on, put it away, done. So given that it doesn't align with my journaling style, funnily enough, we had a video about this earlier in the week. Given that it doesn't align with my journaling style, what if I just stop buying them? And then, because they would, sit here on my shelf, because that's what those are, little plastic drawers that I showed you before by colors, that was originally for the acrylographs because it perfectly fit the acrylographs. So I would line them up in those drawers. They looked super cute and such and whatnot, but I wasn't using them. So every time I saw them, I just feel kind of guilty. And I do not believe in keeping materials in my stash that it seems to be that their sole purpose is to make me feel bad about not using them. I don't want that for my journaling practice. I don't want my materials to make me feel bad about myself. So I ended up getting rid of them. I sold them at a like huge discount. Somebody got a great deal. I effectively sold like over $1,000 worth of pens, over $1,000 worth of pens for like New Zealand $100, which is like, I don't know, $70 US or whatever. So yeah, $70 US for these like thousands of dollars worth of pens. Not thousands, just like 1.3 or something. But I know that they're going to go to a place where they can fulfill their destiny as a pen and be used in the way that they are supposed to be used, if that kind of makes sense. And that makes me feel better. Rather than feeling lame about bringing all of these things into my collection that like are just sitting there to make me feel guilty, I now get the satisfaction of knowing that somebody in my community, like in my local area community, got a really great deal on a set of pens that they are actually going to utilize. And I can feel good about that. All of this to say, I think that I might be at that point with my calligraphs. And that's not to say that I will be getting rid of my calligraphs, because they are still the pen type that I like to use. I enjoy using water-based brush tip markers. But I think that my completionist mindset when it comes to them is not something that is serving me. So I counted up my pens. I got myself a little scrap of paper here so that I could count up my pens. And then I went and measured out how much space in theory I would need in my journal, which is 2 spreads. So this spread here, and then effectively this page again, is where I'm going to be putting my calligraphs. So I'm going to wait until my new set of calligraphs arrives, put them all in order in terms of their colors, so that I know like they're roughly in rainbow order, because as you might have been able to tell, I like it when the pens are in a nice order, because originally I was thinking like, oh, I should put the calligraphs by their release so that then I can refer to them by release. I'm like, why does it matter if they're by release though? Because people can't get the old releases. Like if we go and I'm gonna go grab my last one so we can have a cheeky little snoop. Excuse me, little dragon. I'll show you guys my dragon, because why not? This is my pen stash dragon. They're pretty cute. They sit on top of my red notebooks, so put that to the side. But in terms of how I used to swatch the calligraphs and acrylographs, I would do them by release. So it's like, this is the spring set, this is the spellbound, da 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 kind of a thing, which is fine. But again, they don't re-release them, so it would literally only be for my own benefit. But I also don't store them in their sets. Like I used to store them in their sets, so it kind of made sense. Like I'd store all the primary ones together and da 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 da. But then I started storing them by color, so it's like it doesn't really make a lot of sense to to list them out here. Same idea with the calligraphs though. So I would write them all out based on the sets that they were released in. But you can't get them, so there's not a lot of point. This one here, marsh green, that is my beautiful, perfect, lovely baby green that I love, that is running out. Yeah. I have so many of these pens, and like to the extent where I had to make a new swatch. I think it was after the bicolor ones. Flip forward. Yeah, I started making a new one, and then I changed to a new journal, so is what it is. But yeah, I think that drawing my line in the sand would be a good idea. Drawing my line in the sand and saying I'm not getting any more of the calligraphs. I might change my mind on that, but at the moment, this is what I'm thinking about. We'll see what happens. Do the tips of the Tombows share the ink? If one runs out, so does the other. Yes. And that's also why I have stopped storing mine vertically, because I would find that all of the ink would run into the bullet nib, which was at the bottom. If I store them horizontally, then I don't have gravity working against me quite so much, which is quite helpful. Because otherwise it's like, oh yeah, it's like now kind of dried out and such, which is a bit of a bummer. Do you find that the A&O markers dry out faster? I have found that they dry out faster, but that I don't know if that's actually like a stock standard thing that happens with those pens, or if it's just the ones that I have in particular. I'm not really too sure about that, but from my experience, they have run out faster. I am very excited to play this. I'm not going to get it on release because I never play a game on release. I never figure out how to do that. But it looks pretty cool and I'm excited to play. Would you mind showing one of your monthly habit tracker spreads for habits that occur one time per week/month? I can find it for you or find you an idea. I just need to figure out which journal it's in. I can do this. I can figure this out. She mused. I don't know if I can figure this out. I don't know if it's in this one or if it's in another one. That's food. I'm just trying to remember when I released the video. It might be in the one that was before this one, which means it'll be in a different green notebook. For what it's worth, there is a video on the channel. If you go onto the main channel page and you search like habit tracker, we have a video that's all about different types of habit trackers, because it'll be in that video and it's done based on frequency of habit completion. That's probably the easiest way to find it because I can't remember which journal it's in. Because there's a few journals in my stash if we haven't noticed, and I'm not necessarily the greatest at being able to remember. Let's see. If and or when you do giveaways, can you save it and have it shipped directly to the winner? Yeah, that would be the idea. So rather than me using my voucher to acquire new materials from Archer and Olive, I could save that and then just like have a giveaway where I use that voucher and the free shipping code to send them something. This might not necessarily happen, so please don't get too excited too quickly, anybody who's listening, but it's just a thought kind of a thing. Is there a price point that Archer and Olive do free shipping? Yes, but you have to live in these states or in the continental states or whatever they call it, the 48 mainland ones. I don't live there, so I think that it doesn't work. But yeah. The dot grid stencil, though, I do very much like, and I'm surprised by it because as said, I don't really use a B5, but this has actually been one of the best products that I've gotten from them. The A5 one that they currently have has two little notches at the halfway and third way mark, which means that I wouldn't want to use it because I like to be able to use the side that has the numbers on it for ruling. You can't rule when it's got kinks in it, kind of a thing. This one has it printed on it though, so it's much better. The only other issue that I have with this ruler is that I'm the kind of person who uses the metric system, and these are not millimeters, despite looking like millimeters. They are like eighths and quarters of centimeters, which is not how we use the metric system. So I hope that if they ever release this again, like a reprint, they actually do millimeters because it doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work. But thank you so much for joining me, team. I had a great time. I hope you did too. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Otherwise, if you were looking for more swatching content, then the playlist we have on screen here is where it's at. Until next time, bye!